This is Richard A. Long, Head Oral History Unit, History and Museums Division, Headquarters Marine Corps, Washington, D.C. This is the 11th of May, 1999, and I am in Pendleton, Mississippi, interviewing Colonel Von Daley, D-A-L-E-Y, Bell, Jr., USMC, retired, relative to his post or pre-World War II entry into the Marine Corps through the period of Vietnam. Colonel, may I inquire? I'm going to speak something else here. We may have some difficulty with this interview because Colonel Bell is relatively deaf and hard of hearing as a result of Vietnam, and we may have to repeat a few things here and there, and we hope the listener will go along with us on this. We haven't much choice. Colonel, when were you born and where, please?
What
Where
year?
and where?
I was born in 1936, August the
Born?
25th.
Earlier.
August 25, 1936.
Weren't you born in
In
1917?
Atlanta, Georgia.
1917?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, 1918.
Very well.
Yeah. I went to
In
Miami,
Atlanta,
Florida.
Georgia?
Pardon?
In Atlanta, Georgia?
In Atlanta, Georgia.
Who were your parents,
And then
please?
my parents moved down to Miami, Florida.
Who were your parents, please, sir?
My parents are deceased.
Their names.
Yeah, Van and Grace Bell.
What was your father's profession?
My dad was one of these jack of all trades. He was a skilled mechanic, a skilled electrician. He was a plumber. He was an automobile mechanic, and he worked at all of those trades. He was an excellent carpenter.
What was their nationality? English? English nationality?
Scots and Irish and English.
Scotch, Irish, and English. How did they come to settle in Atlanta? Was that where he was born?
I don't remember when my dad was born, or my mother, but when I was born, they were both 20, so I guess you would say that 1918.
Were you an only
about
child?
1898, something like that.
Were you an only child?
My mother, what?
Were you an only child?
No, I have. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters.
What are the age factors?
Well, my brother was 2 years younger than me, and the next oldest was my sister. She's deceased. The next oldest was a brother named Jimmy, and he's also deceased. And the youngest one, the next one is a brother named Gene. And then there was another daughter. The youngest of the bunch is a daughter who lives down in Tampa, Florida, and her name was Marie. Now,
How did it happen that your father left Atlanta?
How old what?
How did it happen your father departed Atlanta for Miami?
Well, my father was offered, at the time, you know, times were hard for everybody.
In the Depression?
Especially with a family as big as his. And he was offered a job down in Miami as a painter, and he was one of these rare people who could mix paints to match any
By eyesight.
And the hotels used to hire him for the painters who were doing the job when they were paint contractors, and he would go in and mix their colors for them. That was his specialty.
Mm-hmm.
And
where did you live in? Did you live in Miami or other places?
living in Miami, Florida, that's right, all this time.
What area of Miami?
Pardon?
What area of Miami? What area of Miami?
Oh, we always lived in the northwest section.
Northwest
Section of Miami, and we went to school there. I went all through elementary school, junior high school, and high school there.
You did graduate?
Yes, and then.
Where did you graduate? What high school?
Miami High School, Miami Edison High School.
Miami
Edison High School. Well, then after graduation.
Did you engage in any? Did they have any ROTC at that time in high school?
What?
ROTC in high school?
No, I'll get to that in a minute. How I learned this. I joined the Marine Corps with my best friend, who neither one of us could get a job at that time.
What year, sir? What year?
This was 1936. And even the married people with families were having a hard time getting a job. So we decided to join the Marine Corps, and that time it was a regular.
Had you thought about something like the Civilian Conservation Corps?
Well, yeah, but I had saw some of those people, and they were nothing but bums. No, that bunch that I knew. I saw though. Now there was I had an uncle who was my mother's sister's husband, who was a real fine individual. He was one of the finest carpenters I have ever seen, and yet even he couldn't get a job, so he joined the CCCs at that time.
Was he a World War I vet?
Huh?
Was he a World War I vet?
Yeah.
So he went on as a leader.
Yeah.
He was a carpenter leader.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And his name was Johnny, and we always thought the world of him. I joined the Marine Corps because we couldn't get a job, and my buddy and I could get a job. So we.
Was there any thought of any of the other services? Was there any thought of any other service?
No.
Because you remember, Navy is prominent in Miami.
Well, this buddy of mine, we went through school together. We grew up together. He was an outstanding mechanic in high school. So when we joined the Marine Corps, we went through boot camp at Parris Island. And in those days, that was really some tough baby. There were some times during that period of time that I wished I hadn't joined.
How many weeks boots then?
That was 3 months.
3 months.
3 months. And then...
2 weeks of that on the range?
Pardon?
2 weeks of that on the range?
No, 1 month on the range.
1 month on the range?
We whole month. The Marine Corps believed in shooting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We had the old Springfield 03 bolt-operated rifle.
Right.
And when we left there, we were sent as a platoon all the way to China. We were sent to Norfolk, Virginia, and went on a transport.
Was there any volunteer at this time? Did you volunteer for this, or were you?
No, we were just sent.
You were just told you were going to.
I came in the Corps and I said, well, Mike, I said, they'll send us wherever they want us.
Well, most people had to ask for China duty, because everybody wanted China duty.
Yeah, everybody.
So but your entire platoon was chosen for China duty?
Pardon?
Your entire platoon was chosen?
Not at that time. We just went. Went aboard the transport USS Henderson.
Your entire platoon?
Yeah.
All right.
And we went. That's the first time that
Where did you go
went
aboard?
Through the Canal.
Where did you go aboard it? Norfolk?
Norfolk, yeah.
Norfolk.
And then that's where we cut the transport. And
On
we went
Henderson?
down, visited Cuba.
What kind of shape was Henderson at that time?
And,
What kind of shape was Henderson in at that time?
well, it had been used in World War I as a cattle boat, and taking cattle to Europe for slaughter.
And also Marines,
Yeah. But they cleaned it up, and it was, well, you were stacked 6 deep down in the holes. But we went to Cuba, stopped off in Cuba, let off a few, picked up a few, went through the Panama Canal, and then I was...
No liberty.
This was great.
No liberty.
No.
No liberty.
No, this was great because a young kid had never been anywhere. See.
I know. I went through that too.
Yeah. And then we went through the canal up to San Pedro and to Lord and San Diego. No, not San Diego. San Francisco. And then from there, we had to break out our blankets because it was cold. Mm-hmm. We traveled to Hawaii.
What time of year was it, sir? What time of year?
April. No, this was June.
Mm-hmm.
June.
You were still a rifleman at all that time.
We were thin-blooded, all of us down there.
Yeah.
And
you were all riflemen at this time,
yeah.
Right? Still riflemen?
Right. And then we left there and went to Hawaii. And boy, my eyes were as big as saucers. This beautiful place I'd heard about. And then from there, we went to Guam. And then from Guam...
You didn't want to get off there. You didn't want to get off there, sir.
No. I had some friends that got off there and stayed there and were captured during 1941. Well, we went to Shanghai. And
did you go Philippines first?
The international settlement.
Did you go to the Philippines before you went to Shanghai?
Pardon?
Did you go to the Philippines before you went to?
Oh yeah,
excuse me. Went to the Philippines. Yeah, went to
Cavite
or Olongapu?
I went down just enough to let off the people. Yeah.
Cavite or Olongapu?
No, went well. Not at this time. The first time it was just Manila, and they got off there and rode to the ones who were going to stay at Cavite. But the Cavite, and then some Cavite had extended to come aboard ship to go to China.
Right.
They used to do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got from Philippines to Guam, from Guam to Shanghai, the international settlement, to the 4th Marines. The old famous 4th.
Who was commanding 4th at this time? Who was? And this is 1937. This is 1937?
This was 36.
Still 36.
Still, all this is 36.
All right.
We never,
who was commanding force at that time?
We never got a chance. We didn't have a fleet landing force. There was no nothing like that.
Who was commanding force?
Yeah.
Who was commanding force?
I'm going to give you, his name was Charles F.B. Price, Colonel.
Yep.
And his exact was, later on became a general. Had the 1st Marine Division at
Beaumont?
Huh?
Beaumont? No.
No, he had the 6th Marines. Beaumont came into the 6th Marines. Yeah. I'll remember it in a minute.
I should know it too.
But then after 3 months in Shanghai, I thought, boy, I got to stay here 3 years. I don't want to stay in this place 3 years. So
what was the duty? What was the duty that was objectionable? What was your duty at the time?
Just regular sentry duty.
You were on the sandbagged units. This is Sino-Japanese going on at that time.
Yeah.
You were on the sandbag unit.
The Japanese were getting a little antsy there, and they gave us a couple of challenges, and we challenged them back. And
where was your outpost, on the Suchow or on Huangpu?
Chow Creek.
On Chow Creek.
Yeah, that was our defense.
That was your barrier between there and Hongqiu.
Yeah. Well, that is the cost.
Japanese were in Hongqiu.
You were there too.
No, I know. I've studied a lot of this.
Well,
anyway, I'm going to the 4th Marines reunion right now when I leave here.
When were you there at 4th Marines?
I never was.
Was that when I was there?
No, I never was.
Oh, you never was.
But I've been studying this for years, the 4th Marines.
Well, I went aboard the USS Augusta, the flagship of the Asiatic Fleet.
Well, let's slow back a little bit here. You were at the International Settlement, Shanghai, on an outpost primarily on the Chow Creek. And what was your company?
Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th
Fox
Marines.
Company, 2nd.
2nd Battalion, 4th Marines.
Who commanded Fox Company at that time, sir?
I don't know. I don't remember the name of the company commander.
I can look that up, but I can look that up.
Yeah. But he was a good one. He was.
Did you know Lieutenant Wallace M. Green, Jr.? Did you know him at that time?
That a what?
Did you know First Lieutenant John Wallace M. Green, Jr.?
No.
At that time? He later became commandant.
I don't remember a lot of those people. But in the 4th Regiment, I thought, well, after a few days, a few weeks, I had seen all of Shanghai, and I said, I don't want to stay here for 3 years.
Well, you didn't like Shanghai.
Well, the USS Augusta came in the port in Shanghai, and they sent over to the 4th Marines and said that they needed Marines to fill in the detachment.
Did you go to the Marines Club much?
Huh?
Did you go to the Marines Club very much?
Oh, yeah.
Did you go to the little club?
Well, they had one for the 2nd Battalion and one for the 1st Battalion.
And you had the little club.
Right.
You had the little club.
I went to both of them. They were real fine. You could get a meal for 30 cents.
Aye.
And the exchange at that time
you get gin pretty cheap too, didn't you?
On $21 a month, you could live like a king.
You're living on Mex.
Right. But at any rate, I put in to go aboard the USS Augusta.
How long after you'd been there?
And I'd been there 3 months.
3 months.
And I'd seen all of Shanghai. We had then I was accepted. So I was transferred to the USS Augusta.
What was Liberty at that time, sir? All-night Liberty?
Pardon?
All-night Liberty?
Yeah.
All night?
Yeah.
Civvies or uniform?
No, we were in uniform.
Uniform all the time.
We could wear civvies from the 4th Marines, but the Marine Detachment could not because they didn't know when you were going to be called to take off. See. But at any rate, you could have your civilian clothes made for just a few dollars. Beautiful material.
And uniforms as well.
Pardon?
And uniforms as well.
Yeah, uniforms.
Who were some of your associates at that time, that 3 months? Do you recall any of your friends at the time by name?
We had the light heavyweight champion of the world of the Orient, named Freddie Linkowski. Freddie Linkowski later became a master gunnery sergeant, and then he died early. Died before World War II started. We had a fellow by the name of Red Carradine, who was from Louisiana down here, because he's dead now. Another one named Womack, he's dead. And my buddy William McAdoo Russ from that I joined the Marine Corps with. He was in the Philippines, and when we pulled into the Philippines, we traveled all around Augusta. Even went to Russia.
Well, before you got to Augusta, this is what I was trying to get some of your associates there within the detachment at.
We never went past the Philippines, going back east. Philippines, and went to the Dutch East Indies.
Now wait a minute. This is when you were aboard the Augusta, correct?
This is when I was on the Augusta.
What month and year did you go aboard Augusta, sir?
What month?
What month and year?
I went aboard in January 1937.
How large a detachment they have on the Augusta at that time?
Stayed aboard 2.5 years.
How large a Marine detachment did they have aboard?
They had 46.
46?
2 officers.
Two
a captain
officers.
and a first lieutenant and a first sergeant.
Do you recall their names?
Yeah. No.
Try.
But the captain that we had left about 3 or 4 months after I did, and the first lieutenant took over, and we just had one officer for about 6 months.
You don't recall their names?
No.
How about your top sergeant?
First sergeant, yeah, Arvid D. Butler.
Armin D. Butler, I've heard that.
I'll never forget him.
I've heard of him.
He was a heavy-set fellow, and he's one of the only Marines I've ever seen that could stand on one foot and put his foot on the ceiling, the other foot. So a complete split.
Slim, huh?
Oh, he used to win lots of money from the sailors on that. And he's not a card cheat, but he was the best poker player I've ever seen. I wouldn't play with him. But the sailors did. They always thought they could beat him, and he At any rate,
Did you, any other people in I'll be asking you this all the way through, people that you knew on various...
well, I had another one down here from well, I was an orderly of Harry Yarnell, who was a commander-in-chief of the Asiatic Fleet.
That's right.
Harry Yarnell later retired and went to Newport, Rhode Island. And when I left China to come back to the States, I was sent to the Naval War College, Newport, Rhode Island.
And there was Yarnell.
Huh?
And there was Yarnell.
And one day I was on guard duty, sentry duty in the hallway, and Admiral Yarnell came aboard. He was a principal speaker for the graduating class, senior class.
Not to get ahead now, who was the Fleet Marine officer aboard the Augusta at the time you were aboard?
Fleet Marine officer?
At the time you were aboard.
Lord, I know his name.
It wasn't Clement yet, was it?
But he became a general later on.
It wasn't Clement yet, was it?
Who?
Clement?
No.
Wasn't Clement yet?
No. But the senior Marine officer was he was on the staff. He was a Fleet Marine officer.
How about John W. Thomason? Was he aboard there, or is he in North China at that time?
Jerry Thomas?
No, John, the writer. John Thomason.
I don't remember him.
The writer, wrote Red Pants and so forth and so on, He was mostly in Peking.
Now, some of this could either happen before or after I left. Anyhow, the reason I went aboard ship is because they traveled. And the first place we went...
Was it difficult to get aboard? Was it difficult to get on the Augusta detachment? Was it difficult to get a...
Well, they were tough. The Marine detachment was really tough and strict. And
to get on, and when I was
good officers, good NCOs, and I made PFC aboard there early. That was a big deal then. Sure. Went from $21 a month to $30 a month.
That's all it was.
Well, then we had the Marine that won, the first Marine to win the Congressional Medal of Honor was a good friend of mine aboard the ship. He was named Clyde Thomason. And Clyde Thomason.
Thomason or Huddleston?
Went in the 1st Raider Battalion.
Thomason? Or Huddleston?
He's from Albany, Georgia. Clyde, when we came back to the States, he stayed on the West Coast and I was sent to the East Coast. And Clyde, the 1st Raider Battalion was organized at that time.
But this was before, this is much later. This is in the 40 and 41, right?
Carlson.
Well, how long were you aboard Augusta?
Was that where?
How long were you on board Augusta?
2.5 years.
2.5 years?
Right.
What were her travels for the majority of that time? What did she spend winters in Philippines and summers in Shanghai?
Well, we visited the Marines, the Cavite.
All right.
And at the time...
I mean, what was the cruise pattern for the...
Cavite?
What was the cruise pattern for the Augusta? When was she, what part of the year was she north?
What did we do?
No. What was her cruise patterns of the Augusta? When did she spend time in China, and when did she spend her time in the South, in the Philippines?
At that time, this will tie in. At that time, we never had a U.S. representative. What do you call them?
Consulate.
What?
Consulate.
Represent the United States over there.
Ambassador.
Consul.
Ambassador or
we never
consul.
had that. The admiral was the consul.
That is correct.
At that time.
That is correct.
So when I went aboard ship, the ship then had to visit all of these different ports, and we went to Russia, Vladavastok, Russia. We stayed there for a week, and these Russians, they were rugged-looking people.
What was the purpose of that particular trip to Vladivostok?
Pardon?
What was the purpose of that trip to Vladavastok?
Well, we went. It was a goodwill calling point. The Red Army invited us for a big dinner over there, the whole fleet. We went there, and they had Russian food was good. It was really good. But I had already tasted some down in China. They had a lot of white Russians in China.
Sure.
You know, when they had that civil war there, all the white Russians that went over into China.
That's right.
So they were scattered up and down the coast. So I had some Russian suppers, dinners, but I wasn't a drinker, and so we sat at this table, and the porridge that they had was just real salty. So I had this tall glass and clear glass, and I reached over and I took a long swig of it, thinking it was water and it was vodka. God, I thought I was going to die and choke. So all the Russians were laughing at me, the army, but they were good to us. We had a big concrete place, a dance hall, open air. And they had their band out there, and the Navy band was over there.
Is that Vladivostok?
Yeah, Vladivostok. So it was just a goodwill tour all the way around. And anyhow, these Russian gals had these big clodhoppers on. They were all heavy workers, Lord. And you didn't guide them; they guided you around. So after about 2 rounds around that big dance hall, I was pooped out. It was something. But they were nice. They were nice people, and in fact, Admiral Yarnell invited the people, all the people of Vladivostok, to come aboard our ships. We were friends then.
A lot of people.
So they came aboard the Augusta. We fed them ice cream. They never had ice cream before. We fed them walk-through dinners. And they never had any of our food before.
Beans?
Yeah. So.
They knew beans, didn't they?
Yeah. And of course, all of these destroyers were in there too, and they went aboard the destroyers. And then our boats took them back to the dock. I've got pictures somewhere of that. And we came back aboard ship, and then from there, we started hitting all of the China coast. And that's when I saw my first sight, and I got pictures somewhere of the Great Wall of China.
You went north to Peking.
Oh, yeah.
Did you go into Qinghuangtao? Qinghuangtao you went into.
Yeah, we went ashore, and then you caught a rickshaw out to where it began, and I walked out on it. You could
out in the outer hills.
Yeah, and it went, I think it was 7,000 miles long. It came around up just this side of Peking. And we spent a lot of time in Tsingtao because it was a very clean city and inhabited by wealthy Chinese and Russians and an awful lot of Germans. Tsingtao had been ceded to the Germans after World War I.
That's right.
And as usual...
Big iron area.
Right. And as
iron
usual,
and coal.
Those Germans are very neat and clean people, and they're builders. And it was the prettiest city I've seen in all of the Orient. So when
what did you think of Tsingtian?
Pardon?
Did you get a Tsingtian at that time?
Oh yeah. Went up there, and the thing that impressed me the most was the Temple of Heaven. And I visited some friends up there on the Marine Detachment. But they went up by railroad. I never knew that they had railroads in China.
Right. Yeah. Run by the Russians, were they?
Huh?
Run by the Russians, were they not?
No, it was Chinese.
The Chinese, before the Japs got them.
Yeah, and cars were neat, comfortable, had delicious food for lunch in the dining rooms, and I was quite impressed as a young kid. But then we came back, went back aboard ship, and then we began to hit all of these regions. We went back into Shanghai, and then from there we went to Hong Kong, Singapore, and no, excuse me, not Singapore. I didn't go. I never have been to Singapore.
Rangoon?
It was one of the islands down there. I forgot which it is. But anyway, I went into the Dutch East Indies.
Timor.
Huh?
Timor. Timor?
Yeah.
Timor.
And went into the Dutch East Indies, Bali, Batavia, and this is where the Dutch had their oil reserves.
Why?
And that's why the Japanese took them so fast. They needed that oil.
You bet.
Well, the Dutch people were real fine. The women folks came out to the ship, and they didn't have any docks. We had to anchor out, and then we rode in on our landing craft right up on the beach.
Whaleboats.
And so they came out, and the Admiral sent the landing craft in from all the ships to bring them back aboard ship, and just a goodwill tour. From there, we went to Bali, and again we had to go aboard by ships, and the girls put on the Dance of the Virgins. You've seen the pictures of those?
I have.
It was the most graceful thing that I've ever seen. Now, they were bare-chested, but you didn't even think
about that.
No, it was just part of the whole beautiful thing. Now, the people from there gave us some coconut. It was a salad, and it was really delicious. They made from coconut, wild limes, and mangoes, and avocados.
Good fruit plate.
And they chopped it up and mixed it into a salad, and it was delicious. We went from there. Of course, there again we had to wait ashore because they didn't have any docks. From there we went to Macassar, and I don't remember much about Macassar because we were only there one afternoon. But then we went from there back into the Philippines, in Manila Bay, and this is when my friend I joined up the Marine Corps with, I asked Admiral Yarnell if I was his orderly and bodyguard. I asked him if he would help me get my friend aboard ship who was over in the Marine Detachment there. And all they did was just told us Chief of Staff, I'd like to have this Marine aboard ship. And the next morning, here comes my buddy. And now, I stayed in the infantry. And when we got back to the States, and my buddy went out in reserves.
Did Augusta go back to the States?
Yeah.
Did Augusta go back?
Well, he was...
Augusta didn't go back.
Yeah, he was called back.
No, but Augusta didn't go back to the States. No.
And so he was called back, but Mac was always a wonderful mechanic. So.
But you had the same tour he did, didn't you?
Huh?
You had the same tour he did you?
Yeah, yeah, we grew up together.
But I mean, you had the same time of tour over there? Did you come back together?
Absolutely.
Did you come back to the States together?
Oh, yeah.
All right. What'd you come back aboard?
Well, we were discharged, but I was in the reserves.
You were discharged there?
After we got back to the States. I accepted
What'd you come back on, Henderson or Shimon?
Henderson.
Henderson, okay.
I never did get on the Shimon. But we got, Mike and I were both discharged, and I went in the reserves. And I went home.
Why was it you went in the reserves?
Well, I'm getting to that.
All right.
I went home and I had saved my money for 4 years. So I wanted to go to college. They didn't have the GI Bill and that stuff then.
No.
So I did. I got home, and in reserves, I hadn't been home 2 weeks, and I was called back by the reserves. And my buddy Mac didn't join the reserves, so he was still a civilian. But
what month was that were you called back, sir?
Huh?
What month were you called up? Month and year?
This was in January.
40?
No, wait a minute. It was December, right after Pearl Harbor.
Well, after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. And so
you were in Atlanta or in Miami?
Miami.
Miami.
Right. And so my buddy Mac joined also. But when we went to the Naval, I'll skip the place there. When we came back from China, he and I were transferred to the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island for duty. And that's where Admiral Yarnell saw me.
Aye.
And he and his wife was a little gray-haired lady, just about as sweet as a person you ever want to meet, invited me over at his house, private first class, over at his house for dinner and some bridge. Well, I was a pretty good bridge player. That's what we used to do. We didn't have the money.
That made you popular with the upper crust.
Yeah. So after I left the War College, I was discharged at that time. I went home and I was in the reserves, and I worked at different jobs. I worked for a telephone company as a assistant cable splicer and a gopher for the cable splicer. But I thought, $18 a week. That's 4 times more than I was getting in the Marine Corps, but still, at 1940, that wasn't much. So
you were paying room and board, or were you back with your parents at that time, or were you living alone?
No, I was a master gunnery sergeant by then.
Wait a minute.
Well, I went out as a corporal, and when I re-enlisted later, I was
in 41 you went from. In 41 you went from corporal to master gunnery sergeant.
Right.
You're kidding.
Well, the Marine Corps would begin to.
I know, but that's the big jump.
So all of the regulars went up 3, 4, and 5, and 6 stripes. See? And you know, we used to have at that time 1 sergeant major in the Marine Corps.
That's right.
Now they got a sergeant major for every little detachment, and they had a first sergeant for each company and 1 gunnery sergeant for each company. We didn't have an FMF then, so most of it was just Marine barracks duty, shipboard duty, embassy duty, stuff like that. Now, the only large unit we had in the whole Marine Corps was the 4th Regiment in Shanghai. Rupertus was the exec.
Okay.
And he became a general.
Yeah, he went out to as far as Peleliu. Peleliu was his
And he took the 1st Marine Division into Peleliu.
That's correct.
Anyhow.
Broken foot and all.
Huh?
Broken foot and all.
Yeah. You've heard of Derby Ross, haven't you?
Surely. I used to know him in.
He was in the 4th Marines too.
I used to know him in Q-Town.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Well,
I went to Quantico in 1961 as the first civilian creditor at the
when
museum.
were you in Cuba?
No, I said Quantico.
Oh, Quantico.
I went to Quantico as the first civilian curator at the museum in 1961.
Oh,
Derby was there then.
Yeah, he retired there.
Yeah, he was a cop.
And I met him in Camp Lejeune again, and he didn't remember me then. He was
and Derby Ross Jr.
lived there.
Derby Ross Jr. lived there too.
He had probably already had 2 or 3 cases of beer inside of him.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen such a beer drinker in my life. But Derby, I saw Derby and Quantico, and you know how the main road in town went down to the river.
That's right, down to the
docks.
docks.
On the left there was that restaurant.
River House.
What?
River House.
Yeah.
River House restaurant.
Well, that's where he used to sit night after night after night. Well, Derby, when we were in Shanghai, he was in the 4th Regiment at the time, same battalion. Derby had a little dog, and he treated that dog like it was a human being, see, and it wasn't worth a goddamn. Everybody wanted to stomp it, but they didn't dare to go against.
That wasn't Suchow.
All the
that
officers.
wasn't Suchow.
No.
No.
all of the officers were in awe of Derby Ross, except the senior ones. The second lieutenants would damn near soar him, see. Well, I don't think Derby ever thought anything about that one way or the other. He never meant any disrespect or respect, neither one or the other. But he had that dog, and when he left to come back to the States, he gave the dog to somebody else there to take care of him. And we had this gunnery sergeant. Gunnery sergeant was a real tough guy, good Marine. You know, he could take any weapon that you had apart in seconds and name the part and the function, anything that you had. But old Derby Ross left the dog in this with this. No, it was a platoon sergeant, staff sergeant at that time. Staff sergeant was 3 up and across the bottom. They were technicians, truck drivers, radio, and stuff. And anyhow, he had that dog, and this lieutenant that we had in the platoon was a real nasty son of a bitch. He had been passed over 3 or 4.
Give me names.
I don't know his name. He'd been passed over 3 or 4 times for promotion to first lieutenant. Well, in those days, they could stay 20 years once they were commissioned. See? Anyhow, he came up in front of that in the platoon, and what the hell's the name of that gunnery sergeant? Anyhow, he was a real knowledgeable individual. I liked him. He was real tough, but good. The lieutenant was the platoon commander, and he came up. I just about had his name. He came up in front of the sergeant, platoon sergeant, and this dog was out there sitting right beside him. And the lieutenant started giving him a hard time about his dog. And anyhow, the lieutenant, he was nothing. Anyhow, the gunny says, I can't try to remember his name. Anyhow, the gunny says, "Lieutenant, sir," he said, "you see that dog? I hate that son of a bitch, but I like him better than I do you." And that was it. What was the name of that gunny son? Anyhow, we had characters like that in there, and one of the was a good friend of mine. One of the real top-notch people was a corporal, and he was the light heavyweight champion of the Orient. I'll tell you, Linkowski. Lynn retired from the Marine Corps and came back, and he fought professional, and he fought for the light heavyweight championship of the world. 2 years after he retired, he lost a close split decision for that championship. 2 years later, he died, and I don't know what caused it. But we had some officers and COs who became famous in World War II. Many of them were at the Longapoop and the Marine Barracks at Cavite, and they ended up on Corregidor, and they fought there until they had no more food or ammunition.
I've been interviewing those people for 10 years now, sir.
Howard.
Yes, Sam Howard.
Colonel Howard
Sam
was
Howard.
the one that, and Howard was the first Marine officer that ever surrendered a flag.
I know.
And it was really disgusting. Now,
Did you know Don Curtis too?
Huh?
Did you know Don Curtis too? Don Curtis, his exec,
No, I don't remember him.
Lieutenant Colonel and then Colonel. Lieutenant Colonel and then Colonel Don Curtis.
No, I don't remember him. Who that, my wife? Oh, I thought it was. No, I don't remember. It's now I'll remember some of these people tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think.
Well, I got a list of their names out in the car. I've got a list of the names in the van.
Yeah. Do you do this often?
Yeah.
Quite a few people?
In every year, I go to the 4th Marines reunion.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going on this trip. I'll be in San Antonio,
right?
and I'll be interviewing some more of the people from the 4th Marines next
you
week.
You know Fryer?
Just met him when he got a hold of me, you know.
Yeah.
When he got a hold of me to interview you, you know. Oh yes, I have the correspondence fine.
That was,
Yes.
you got a copy of this.
Yeah, he sent me a copy of it.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, this.
Well, you knew Howard. Who else did you know of the 4th that you can read? Who else did you know of the 4th at that time?
In the 4th?
In the 4th.
Is Pappy Boyington in here? I knew him well too.
He was later in. He was shot down.
During this time, he was with the Chinese forces.
That's correct.
Right.
Shot down and was in Omura prison camp.
Yeah. I knew Olson too, Marine Gunner Olson.
Yeah, did you? I never met him.
And what is this? What does that mean there?
Status received from Houghton, released. They
what is Houghton?
recovered. It was a prison camp in Manchuria. Receive, REC means recovered at the end of the war.
And I knew Ridgely and Robinson.
Bo Ridgely died in Fredericksburg, Virginia. His son's still living.
Shifty Schaffner.
Yeah, I'll see him next week.
Huh?
I'll see him next week.
Did you?
Yeah, I say I will see him next week.
He was quite a character.
He lives in Shelbyville, Tennessee.
Somerville?
Shelbyville, Tennessee.
I'll be darned.
He is starting to crack. They won't let him drive anymore.
Shifty was he was in the 4th Marines, and
2nd Battalion.
When the 4th transferred to
Along the
the Corregidor,
Along the Poop.
he was in that bunch, and Shifty decided he didn't want to be captured, so he skidooed and went out in the jungle. And he didn't. What happened?
No, he was
This is what I heard.
No, he was in charge at the Middleside Barracks. He had the reserve for the 2nd Battalion.
Well, didn't he go to Corregidor?
Oh yeah, that was on Corregidor.
Captured?
That was on Corregidor.
Okay.
He was had the reserve platoon in Middleside Barracks at the end of the war.
He had a wild reputation in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, he's quite a character.
He was a good man, though.
He's a good character.
Good man.
Did you know Jack Hawkins?
Ridgely, I knew.
Jack Hawkins? Jack Hawkins?
What?
Jack Hawkins?
Yeah.
Hawkins, Shifty, and Dobrovich escaped from Naval Penal Colony in April 1943. Mike Dobrovich died last July in Fargo, North Dakota. I talk to Jack about once a week.
You don't have a copy of this, did you?
I can get you a copy of this.
Okay, I appreciate it.
With me.
Let's see.
Did you know Sergeant Major Jackson in the 2nd Battalion? Did you know Sergeant Major Jackson?
Oh, yeah.
In the 2nd Battalion?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got his journal, a journal he wrote up.
How do you like the present commandant? Well, he was one of my lieutenants in Vietnam.
Okay.
He came in.
We'll get that
stayed
later.
with me for, I think, 3 months, and was transferred to Headquarters Marine Corps. I came to headquarters battalion, the 1st Marine Division, because I think it's because of his dad. But he was, I'll have to say this, we were in dangerous positions all the time, and I gave him a platoon, and he did a good job as a platoon. I never did like his dad.
We'll get on to that later.
Huh?
We'll get on to that later.
Yeah. Well, oh, Bales.
Bales?
Bales. Did you know him?
B-A-L-E-S?
CWO.
B-A-L-E-S?
Yeah,
He comes to all the reunions.
Become a warrant officer later.
Yeah.
Well, Bales.
Ernie Bales.
Bales got into
Ernie Bales.
MP work. MP work, right?
Yeah. He's a little bit.
Bales.
He
was
real nervous type.
I was in when the Marines pulled out of Pekin and Tsingtian, China. They pulled down to Tsingtao.
Wusung first.
And Bales came down there. He was a
you mean? I thought you meant when they were captured.
He was a warrant officer then, and MPs. And Bales, I was living. They didn't have any more room in the few houses they had to be accused. So when we came down, they put us in this sort of a hotel. Each one had a little room. Any rate, one of the Navy lieutenants lived there also.
This is after you left the Augusta? When you were still on the Augusta?
This was after World War II.
Oh, well, let's get too far ahead.
Right. Well, when I had a knock on the door, and I opened the door, and here was this Lieutenant J.G., Navy. Blood just streaming all over his nose, you know, and I said, what happened to you? And I led him into the room. There's blood all over the floor and the hallway coming in. And I helped him wash up, and he told me that he had been down in the bar, and he and another fellow got in a fight. And I said, this was on the 2nd floor. I said, what are you doing up here on the 2nd floor? He said, I don't know. I said, well, come on in, and I'll help him wash up. Well, about that time, Bales came. I never did like the song, but anyhow. Bales came in, and he says, all right. He says, I'm preferring charges against you for assault on this Navy officer. And I said, Gunny Bales, you're full of shit. I said, I didn't hit this man. And Lieutenant J.G. came up again, and he says, that's right. He says, he was trying to help me. He said, I got in a fight downstairs, and I came up here, and Bales saw the blood, you know, when he came in, and he'd heard about the fight down below. So when I said that, Bales looked at me and backed off. You know. The next day, I really still got angry about that. I was the 1st lieutenant then, and I went to the MP headquarters, and they had this major there. I forgot who his name was, and I knew him as a good man. And I went in and I told him about his asshole warrant officer, Bales, and what he did. I said, now if he ever comes around me again, I'm going to knock him flat on his ass. Because I was pretty handy with my dukes at the time. So he must have got with Bales, because Bales came around and apologized. See? I never had anything else to do with him. But I never did know what happened to Bales afterwards. Did he go swirling?
Is it Ernie Bales? Yeah, that's Ernie.
Yeah,
That's
Bales.
Ernie. Yeah, I know him. He comes to almost all the reunions.
Huh?
He comes to almost all the reunions.
Yeah. Well, you know, my friend that joined the Marine Corps with me, well, we served at the Naval War College after we come back from China. And one of the officers there was General Roy S. Geyer. He was a lieutenant colonel at that time. And he was a famous flyer.
Right.
Well, my friend Mike says, went in to see Colonel Geiger, and he said, "Sir," he said, "I'm a good mechanic." He said, "Could you help me be transferred to Quantico?" That's where the Marine Air units were. So sure enough, he ended up there as a mechanic. Well, I went on home and came back in later, but I didn't see Mike for about 1940.
41, 42.
It was 1949. Well, no, 1946. I was in Tsingtao, China at the time, and one day his guy come in my office, and it was my buddy. He'd flown out. He'd become a flyer, and Mike become a personal pilot of General Geyer. Yeah, for years, and when he got out of the Marine Corps, he went back down and worked for Panamanian as a chief mechanic.
Pan American?
Yeah, Pan American, as a chief mechanic. And but I didn't see him for years. And I just went to his funeral about 2 years ago. I'm the only one of that bunch left, I think.
Well, let's get back into the other if we can, and then we'll get into this a little later. Okay, you were recalled in what month?
Pardon?
You were recalled when, in 41 or 42?
41.
December 41.
In 1941.
What was your first?
See, I got out in 40.
All right.
And I was in the reserves 1941, March, 1940, March to December of 40, right, and I've been in ever since.
What was your first assignment when you came back as a master sergeant?
When I first called back in, I was stationed. The Marines had a.
You were a corporal then?
Wing in Miami.
You were a corporal then?
Yeah, and I was stationed at Marine Air Station in Miami, Florida. It was temporary, and
up till that time you'd had nothing to do with air. Up till that time you'd had nothing to do with air.
Well, no, I was transferred from there.
No, in air.
And I was, let's see, 41. I went to the Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and there they were activating the 2nd Marine Division, and at that time, and but I stayed at the base. They only had 2 regiments.
It was New River then, wasn't it?
Never had a division.
It was New River then, wasn't it?
Huh?
It was New River then, wasn't it?
Across the way.
It was called New River, not Lejeune yet.
Camp Lejeune was just a wooded area.
That's right.
With a whole bunch of farms tied together that the Marine Corps bought, and I went on overseas. When I came back.
Went overseas with whom, sir?
Huh?
Went overseas with whom? With whom? What unit?
Yeah.
What unit did you oversee?
1941.
With whom?
I went overseas by myself as an individual.
Or as a replacement?
There's no unit.
Replacement. As a replacement?
What?
A replacement?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we went as an individual.
What was your grade at that time?
And I went to Guadalcanal.
What was your grade at that time?
I was a MGySgt sergeant, and the Marine Corps exploded into 600,000 people.
Right.
The great majority of those were reserves, and so guys like me who had experience in the Marine Corps were just ballooned right on up to the top. Of course, you were so well trained as an enlisted man in the Marine Corps that you could hold any rank if they gave it to you. See? So I didn't have any problems with the MGySgt sergeant.
Well, where did you go on when you went? You went directly to
1945.
You went directly to Guadalcanal, or did you go to New Caledonia or New Hebrides before that?
Pardon?
Did you go to New Caledonia or New Hebrides before you went to Guadalcanal?
No.
No. Was Guadalcanal already secured at the time you went there?
I'm sorry.
Was Guadalcanal secured?
Oh, just security.
No, was it secured? Was the battle over?
Oh, in 1945.
Oh, you didn't go there till 45.
I was given a second lieutenant's commission in 1945.
No, but you said you went as a master gunnery sergeant. You went overseas.
Well, I went from master gunnery to it's in here somewhere.
Yeah.
They promoted to second lieutenant.
Well, what I'm getting at was you were a master gunnery sergeant when you went to Guadalcanal, right?
Yeah.
What year did you go to Guadalcanal?
What year? What?
Did you go to Guadalcanal?
Parris Island,
Guadalcanal.
Oh, 42.
42.
Yeah.
All right.
And then from there.
With whom did you serve there?
Well, from there to Bougainville.
Whom did you serve with on Guadalcanal?
First Marine Division.
First Mardiv.
Yeah. And
what lesser unit?
that was 19.
42.
42.
What other unit were you in there?
I was in the First Marines.
First Marines.
Yeah, it seemed to me I've served in three different regiments, divisions rather, and the brigade, which later became the fourth, and I served in that too.
That's right.
But
well, did you have any action on Guadalcanal?
Any what?
Action.
Oh yeah. Now,
First Marine?
I didn't land in Guadalcanal with the first group. I came in later, and there was still a lot of fighting going on. So then when that was over, we went to Bougainville. And Bougainville
you didn't go back to...
yeah, went back to Canal later.
No, but I mean, when you left Guadalcanal, did you go with the first Mardiv? Did you go to...
the 3rd Marine Division.
You were in first, you said. You were in the First Marines, First Mardiv on Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
All right. From there, did you go back to Australia or New Zealand?
No.
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 You went.
I went straight into they put me as I said when I went out of the Marine Corps and went to Miami. I worked for a telephone company and assistant cable operator. They put me in the signal battalion. Well, I was still in infantry, so I got out of that real soon and went back into infantry. When they called these people all back, they had to untangle the MOSs, you know. They didn't have MOSs at that time.
No, 45.
But when
46.
they came in with MOSs, then they sorted us out. Well, then...
and then you transferred from the First Marines to whom, sir?
Well, I left the First Marines.
Yes.
And went to joined the 3rd Marines when they came in. I went to 3rd Marines into Bougainville.
All right.
And then into Guam. And then I went from there from Bougainville. We came back to the that was a terrible thing.
Shortland?
We came back to Guadalcanal for rest and reissued of clothing and equipment. And we were all about to starve to death because the ships they kept sinking our ships and they couldn't get any food into us. They didn't have airdrops at that time. Mm-hmm. But we had a fighter strip. That's what we built it for.
Henderson Field.
On Bougainville. And that's when Pappy Boyington flew
Princess
in.
Augusta Bay.
Huh?
Princess Augusta Bay.
Yeah. That's when Pappy Boyington flew in with his 214. And that was a wild bunch of people. We sometimes when we get out in the clear, out in the jungle, we could see. Used to watch him, he and his squadron. They were not. I just saw airplanes going down all over the place, and I saw him get knocked down. I didn't know it at the time, but finally 3 of them got on his tail and chewed up his tail and his one wing, and he parachuted into his capture. So he become a prisoner of war until it's over. And they tell me, and I didn't know this, but they tell me that he gave the Japanese a fit the whole time he was a. You know, did you ever meet Pappy?
Yeah.
Isn't he quite a character?
much later when
he was
a wrestling coach, or wrestling referee.
Well, I forgot what they call that squadron of his.
The Black
Sheep. They gave him a whole
sheep.
bunch of pilots.
Black Sheep.
Black Sheep. They gave him a whole bunch of pilots that had no experience. So he asked for permission to train them for 1 month. And they gave it to him because there's no need to send a pilot up that didn't know anything against the Japanese. They were good. So he trained them. And that's when he developed what they call the tri-system. 3 planes were together, see. And they'd come in, and one would go on the top, and one was on each side. And they had these signals, those radio signals, and the 3 of them would tear up one of these planes. The Japanese just couldn't stay with them. And finally, of course, the planes that the Japanese had were much better than ours, faster, but they couldn't turn as sharp. And this is what he knew, because he fought against some of those people in China. And I met Pappy on the Guadalcanal. On Bougainville, and he says, "Do you have anything to drink, Gunny?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, "Well, would you like to have a drink?" And I said, "Well, no, sir. I didn't drink and never have drunk." But I says, I'll have a beer now and then. He said, "I got some cold beers in there." And Jesus, I went in, I had the coldest beer I've ever had in my life. In his tent, he had this big box that the Seabees had made for him and lined it with tin, and they provided his ice for him. They had ice making machines, and he had the coldest beer on the island. Although he was a character, Pappy was one of the best pilots I've ever seen, combat pilots I've ever seen. Now, Joe Foss even said this. Now, when I was on the Canal, Joe Foss, there was 5 or 6 guys. 1 second lieutenant came in there, Flower, and made ace the first day in one fight, knocked down 5 Japanese planes. But I think Pappy had, counting the ones that he got in China, I think Pappy had 26 or 27 planes. There you are. 26 or 27 planes. The next time I saw Pappy was in San Francisco, and I came back to the States. Pappy was in the same hotel I was in, and I heard about it. And I went down to find him and saw him, and they gave him this big room and had the door open. And he had 2 wash tubs full of ice and whiskey in there. And then anybody that passed out there wanted to come in, he offered a drink. And I went in and talked to him for a while. Sat there with him, and I had a Coke or 2. And he said to me, he says, "You know what, ding dong," he said, "you're a sissy." I said, "Well, maybe so," but I said, I always know what the hell I'm doing. He laughed about it, and he became a professional wrestler when he retired.
When he went to refereeing too.
What?
Refereeing.
Yeah. He married some beautiful woman out there. Of course, this is all hearsay. I don't know. I didn't know this.
You haven't read any of the books on him?
Huh?
You haven't read any of the books on him?
No.
There's a couple of new ones out you might want to get a hold of. There's a couple of new ones out.
Did you know that he got married to a beautiful woman out there?
I don't know who she was. Well, he got married, I
when
think.
He died, I don't know whether he was still married or divorced, or how many times he'd been married or what.
Where you were with the 3rd Mardiv then on Bougainville.
Right.
And you saw Bougainville through to the end?
And Guam.
And went into,
Right.
where was your rest? Your rest was back
Marine
at,
Division in Okinawa.
your rest was back at Guadalcanal.
Pardon?
Your rest area was back at Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal?
After Bougainville, you went back to Guadalcanal.
I was in the 3rd Division there.
Yeah, but after Bougainville, you went back to
Guadalcanal, right.
R&R.
Right, to get refurbished.
Right.
And then from there into Guam. Next one is Guam. And then from Guam, we occupied.
Who were your commanding officers on Guam? What was your unit on Guam?
I don't remember.
You don't remember
No.
your commanding officers?
No, hell, you didn't know.
Tried.
Unless they were outstanding officers and everybody knew them, you didn't know them. Although we had good officers, they didn't get commands in those days. Guam was actually, you never read much about it, but it was really a bloody war. That's where I received the Bronze Star, Guam. And from Guam we went to...
Well, what was your... Describe the action for which you received the Bronze Star, please.
Yeah. Describe
it. The action for which you received the Bronze Star.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No. It's given to me, and here's the funny thing, and I was always against this. When somebody had received I had done a lot of work on Guam and recon work, and I suppose I never did get a copy.
You didn't get a citation?
Citation, no.
Wow.
Well, we have a lot of them in Vietnam that received these and never got a citation.
It's going to be in your case file in St. Louis, but I wasn't able to get it in time, you know.
Well, that's in here.
It's in there for what? Describe what you have there. That's your honorable discharge from the Marine Corps as Staff Sergeant, Camp Lejeune, 1945. You want to describe then what is on here for the tape?
Here we are. Awarded Bronze Star Medal for Meritorious Achievement in Action at Guam, 30 July 1944. To accept appointment as Second Lieutenant, United States Marine Corps Reserve. And Okinawa, we went in from Okinawa. I was there about 6 weeks, and I was sent back to the States to be sent to what the hell is it?
Is it 45 or 46? 45?
Pardon?
In 45 or 46?
36.
46.
46.
46.
I was sent to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, the 2nd Marine Division, and that's where I was awarded the Second Lieutenant's Commission.
Had you put in for it, or had it come? Did you apply for it, or it was?
What?
Did you apply for it, or was
No,
it given?
I was recommended for it.
Yes.
And
by whom?
It caught up with me at Guam.
By whom? Do you know?
There was a division commander. I remember his name. He was real fine, big, husky, black-haired fellow.
A lot of them.
I can't remember. I'll remember after a while. Anyhow, these names are far away in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I've been retired 24 years, and I served 39.
I know it's hard to remember. It's hard to
time.
remember a lot of these things, sir.
But I enjoyed it. I would have done it again, the same way. Well, let's see.
All right, you had a recommendation for second lieutenant's commission in the 2nd Mardiv at Camp Lejeune in 1945, correct?
Uh-huh.
What did they give you? What unit? What did they give you in command?
In 45.
Platoon?
That's where I got my second lieutenant's commission.
That's right.
And I can't remember. Wait a minute. I don't know the general's name, but this is the. I'm gonna have to get these things fixed. They're gonna come apart on me.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Kramer, Lieutenant Colonel Kramer.
All right, I'll just read this for the tape. Participated in the action of the enemy at Bougainville, BS, British Solomon Islands, 6 November 1943 to 28 December 1943. Guam, Marianas Islands, 21 July 1944 to 26 August 1944. Okinawa, Ryukyu's Islands, 1 April 1945 to 28 May 1945. Whom did you serve with on Okinawa? With whom did you serve on Okinawa?
Okinawa, 45.
No,
we went into Okinawa then.
With what unit?
Huh?
With what command?
Commander?
What
Oh,
command?
what command? Let's see, I was with the 6th Division then.
6th Division?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
6th Division, what regiment? What regiment?
1st Regiment.
1st Regiment. And you were awarded a Bronze Star for meritorious achievement in action at Guam, 30 July 1944. To accept appointment as 2nd Lieutenant in U.S. Marine Corps Reserve. Signed by E.T. Looks like Nick Line, I can't tell. And you were physically disqualified for discharge. And the whole thing was signed by Lieutenant Colonel W.F. Kramer, U.S. Marine Corps commanding officer. I was doing that for the tape, sir. So what was your...
You've got a record of who these division commanders were all during this time, up there at the headquarters?
Somewhere in the muster rolls.
Somewhere, right.
Muster rolls.
Okay.
Takes a lot of time to dig those out.
Well,
but if I can get your case from St. Louis, it will give all this detail.
Yeah.
See, I was not able to get it before I came down here.
Yeah.
That's the best way to conduct an interview, is
I know,
if you have that material.
I know who the assistant division commander was, and General Thomas.
In where? Where?
In Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
And
Jerry Thomas.
Huh?
Jerry Thomas.
Yeah.
I know his son too.
You know General Thomas?
No, I know his son.
Huh?
General Thomas is dead. I know Colonel Thomas, his son.
Did you know him when he?
No, I did not.
He was I knew him in Tsingtian, China, way back before World War II.
Well, he was a sergeant in World War I.
He was a major then.
He was a sergeant in World War I.
World War I, he's a sergeant, right? And he commanded the Marines Brigade in Tsingtao, China when I was there. Had a lovely wife, and
okay, you had gone back to.
He had one son, I think, and a daughter.
When did you go to Tsingtao? Before you went to? So you were commissioned first, and you were commissioned in Camp Lejeune in 1945.
Who commanded in?
You were commissioned. You were commissioned second lieutenant in 1945. 45, you were commissioned,
that's
right?
when I'm at Camp Lejeune. But I don't know. I know.
Did you go back to China then?
I don't remember who the commander was.
Oh, that's all right. Did you go back to China after that?
Went back to China and yeah, 46.
46.
What happened? That's when the Sino-Japanese War has been going on for quite some time. See, and the communists were closing in on Tsingtao. So, Marine Corps after World War II disintegrated. They didn't have a unit, not one unit, battalion size. So they activated a whole bunch of units and threw them into a battalion in Quantico. And so they picked, that battalion was sent to California, and there they picked up another battalion, reinforced battalion. But I was sent on from there to China. Me and about 10 other lieutenants and captains who had combat experience were sent on to China. And we pulled into, we went in by ship. We didn't have aircraft.
I know.
And we pulled into Tsingtao and immediately joined our organizations there, so 1st Marine Division. And the Chinese had closed in to the north and to the east of the base, and we had our airfield out about 7 miles from Tsingtao. The French, no, the Germans had used this as an airfield and before. So we had a company of Marines out there to guard the airfield, and we had a few fighter aircraft, but mostly they were transports type stuff. And my company was moved out to the airfield. Now this is what I saw. There was a ridge east of the airfield, and that's where we went to defend the place. And you can see out in this valley, went, well, maybe 5 or 6 miles across it, and there was some high mountains. And I saw this a whole bunch of Chinese coming from the south, and they all went up there, and it looked like they left something down. Each one of them, right there. And they turned around and walked off. Right? And I realized then that they had laid their weapons down, and they were the MGySgt's bunch of bandits. God knows how many the machine guns and ammunition, everything. And then, when they backed off, I saw the Chinese communists come in. And they went up, and each one of them picked up one of these things. And they pulled off. The Chinese had sold out. The MGySgt's outfit had sold out to the communists. And I observed this, and I couldn't believe it. When I mentioned it, General Thomas was the commanding general of the Marines there, and his intelligence officer was Major Chason, and so they called me up there and interrogated me, and then they sent a recon unit out there. And these recon units talked to all kind of Chinese out there in that valley, and they verified what I seen out there. But that was MGySgt's pocketing the money. Old Uncle Sugar was, and his wife was just as bad as the Sung sisters. Because all of us knew all about this because it was. We didn't have TVs, radios to listen to, or newspapers to read, anything.
What you saw.
We just word of mouth. Well, when we pulled out of China in 1949, I didn't go back into China until Let me have what it.
Well, you pulled out in 49 for where?
You
pulled out in 49 to where?
Yeah.
Where?
And then.
Where did you go?
From where?
From China in 49.
Oh, in 49, went back to the States.
Right.
The whole outfit went back to the States.
To what assignment?
And we disintegrated at Camp Pendleton. Just come apart. And then I was transferred from Pendleton to Camp Lejeune. And that at the time, anybody who went through boot camp or training east of the Mississippi.
Once an East Coast, always an East Coast.
Well, they don't do that anymore.
No.
But because you went by train.
Mm.
But now, of course, they fly them all. But Camp Lejeune, I was one of the first ones in Camp Lejeune when it first opened. Beautiful base. I just always
changed a lot between 1942 and 1949, didn't it?
Pardon?
It changed a lot between 42 and 49.
Yeah. Well, my wife and I lived there for 3 years, and we were in quarters there.
When did you marry, sir? Did you marry during this time?
Did I marry?
When did you marry?
Oh, in 67.
Oh, that's much later. We'll get to that later.
Right. No, we got married in 67.
We'll get this later then.
And I got 2 boys. The oldest one is a captain in the Marine Corps now. And the youngest is, the oldest went to Marine Military Academy in Harlingen. Yeah. And then went to Texas A&M and then commissioned in the Marine Corps. The youngest one also attended Harlingen, but he went to Mississippi State. And then he decided he didn't want to serve in the career in the Marine Corps, so he's a policeman now.
Oh.
He loves that kind of work. But
all right, then from you went back to Camp Lejeune in 49 for what duty, sir?
From 49?
In 49, you went back. You returned to Camp Lejeune.
Yeah.
For what duty?
From what duty?
For what duty?
I was a division inspector.
Still second lieutenant?
Yeah.
Still second lieutenant?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
That was really...
Pretty good.
Huh?
Pretty good. Second lieutenant, division inspector.
Yeah. General Wheeler, Ed Wheeler was the commanding general at that time. And Ed and I had served together. He was in China before, and he was a real top-notch Marine. So when I came aboard, he said, I've been looking for somebody. He said, this division is falling on its ass, and the officers aren't doing their job. And I said, what are you talking about? Then he said, I was the colonel then. He said, you're going to be my division inspector. I said, what the hell?
You were what? You weren't a colonel.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you've been a second lieutenant?
That was 1975.
Oh, no, this is too late.
Well, I was a lieutenant colonel there and got promoted.
No, what I'm getting at is when in 49 you came back to the States.
Yeah.
To Camp Lejeune. We're getting too far ahead of it. What was your duty in 1949 when you came back to Camp Lejeune?
Here now. I came back to the States in 49. Went to Quantico, the Marine Corps schools, junior school, Quantico. It was 10 months long then. And from there I went aboard ship as a captain, the Marine Detachment, USS Valley Forge aircraft carrier. From there, while I was there, they sent me to a 4-month what do they call it? It's a law school.
Legislative officer. Legislative officer?
Huh?
Legislative officer?
Yeah. And from that, of course, aboard ship, the Marine was always the law officer.
Yeah.
So I had to go. They sent me there. And then, of course, we went to Europe and came back. And
went to Europe how? Went to Europe how? For what? You said you went to Europe.
What did I do?
You said you went to Europe.
Well, we went to Europe, Portugal, different countries as a goodwill tour.
Oh, on the Valley Forge.
Yeah, and then came back to the States, and then I left the ship and went to.
You were a company officer on the a guard detachment officer on the Valley Forge.
Yeah.
Is that a large detachment?
Well, get off the ship.
Is that a large detachment aboard the carrier?
Let's see what I did.
You said you were a law officer. You were a captain. You said you were a captain at that time.
Yeah.
And you were a law officer.
I made major just as I left the ship.
But you were in the detachment, right?
Right.
Fairly large detachment?
Well, I went from there.
How large a detachment, sir?
Right.
How large a detachment did the Valley Forge have?
Aboard ship.
Marine detachment.
How long was it there?
How large? How many?
Oh, that was 46.
I know, but I say how many people?
And then we used to bring in the Marine airborne, Marine squadrons, go out to sea and take, land and take off and practice day and night landings, what's called car quals. We had half a dozen Marine squadrons come out there during that period of time.
Exercising aboard ship. Exercising, learning shipboard.
Yeah. They
takeoffs and landings.
1 week. And day and night. I mean, it was noisy. It was going on. But I met a lot of the Marine officers, real fine young men. We all ate in the same officers' mess. So I got to know quite a few of them. And my oldest brother was a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, and he was stationed at Cherry Point. And my next, I used to go visit him sometime up there, and I'd stay, I was at Camp Lejeune, and he was up in Havelock. You know what that is?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I'd go over and talk to some of the pilots, and some of those young pilots told me that they didn't, if he hadn't worked on the plane, they wouldn't fly it. He was that good. Of course, he was always good. Had another brother in the Marine Corps named Jimmy. He stayed. He came in and stayed 3 years and went out, and he went down to Florida back sometime. The youngest brother came in. And he was aboard ship with the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, and they went into Korea, and I met him in Korea. He had just come out of the Chosin Reservoir with his unit.
Are you a little ahead of yourself there?
Right?
Are you a little ahead of yourself on that? Are you a little bit too far ahead?
Oh, yeah.
No, I say you're too far ahead. You hadn't gone to Korea yet.
Korea?
You had not gone to Korea yet.
No.
No.
No, he was there first.
All right.
I didn't get in that reservoir bit up there. But he ended up with some frozen toes. But I went in, and I met him.
When did you leave the States to go to Korea?
When did I get to
When
Korea?
did you leave the States to go to Korea?
In 1951.
What unit were you with?
First Marine, 7th Marines.
7th Marines?
Yeah.
Did you know General Simmons?
My commanding general.
Did you know Edwin B. Simmons?
Huh?
Edwin Simmons?
Simmons?
Simmons, S-I-M-M-O-N-S.
I'm sorry. I don't.
Simmons.
What?
Edwin Simmons.
Simmons? Ed Simmons?
Ed Simmons. 7th Marine.
No, Simmons in Vietnam.
Well, also in Korea.
We're in Korea now, and my commanding general was.
Well, he wasn't a general then.
Nickerson.
Oh yeah, Herman Nickerson. Yeah, he's retired down at outside Camp Lejeune.
And he's still living.
Yeah, lives outside.
He was a. Oh yeah, he's
lives in Jacksonville.
He's in New Hampshire.
Lives in Jacksonville.
No.
Yeah, last I knew he was
Jacksonville,
there.
North Carolina.
Yeah, last I knew he was where he was. Last I knew that's where he was.
Well, he went to New Hampshire to live with his grandchildren, and so he could be near them.
Recently?
Yeah. When did you last know that he was?
3-4 years ago, he was in.
No, he's up in New Hampshire now.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I got a letter from him about a year ago, I guess it was. Anyhow,
I worked with him on his family genealogy.
huh?
I worked with him on his family genealogy. I was ordered to.
Yeah.
I'm the only genealogist
Did
on
you
this.
like him?
Oh yeah.
Boy, he was a terrific. He had the regiment when I was in Korea.
What regiment?
1951.
What regiment?
He was.
What regiment?
Seventh.
Seventh.
Regiment.
All right.
And I was recommended and received a Navy Cross from,
all right.
and Silver Star.
For what action was this,
Korea.
please?
Well, you got that.
Well, let's get it on the tape here.
That was in 1951. I was
You were in what? In what action?
Commander then.
All right.
And I was wounded.
Where was this? Where in Korea?
It's called Yangu. A place, there's a ridge just north of this little town called Yangu. That's where I was wounded. And,
just north of what?
Huh?
Just north of what?
Yeah,
Just
Yangu.
north of who? You said just north of what?
North of Yangu.
Yang. All right.
Little village is called Yangu, and I was on this ridge, and this artillery really started coming in, and mortars.
What time of year was this?
Hmm?
What time of year?
Well, this was in January and February. It was cold.
These are stalemate positions?
Snow and ice all over the place.
Were these a stalemate positions? Were these a stalemate commissions?
No, we were attacking.
You were attacking. Very well.
There was a certain line that we wanted to get on the 38th parallel, and that was considered the dividing line between North and South Korea. Well, that's what we did, and we took it. But it was I'll tell you that the North Koreans were really good, tough fighters, and then the Chinese came in, and I'll never forget MacArthur tried to deny the fact that there were Chinese in there. Of course, none of us liked MacArthur.
I know.
Had no respect for the man at all, especially after what he did in Guadalcanal.
Neither do the fourth.
What he did in the Philippines.
We know.
I never have seen in places that he got orders to leave.
He got Medal of Honor for dumping it. He got the Medal of Honor at the Philippines.
Yeah.
The ones at Pearl Harbor didn't get the Medal of Honor.
I never saw anything that verified that he got orders from the president to go to Australia.
He did, though.
I didn't see it. Did you see it?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, I didn't think much of him anyhow. He was a showboat, and I never thought much of him. At any rate, getting back to Tsingtao.
Not Tsingtao.
Ed Wheeler was the commanding general.
Not Tsingtao.
We're not there yet?
Not Tsingtao.
Oh, we're going to Korea then.
All right.
Okay. What were we doing in Korea? What
You said you were attacking at Yangdu?
Oh, I had this company, and we were ordered to take
company what, sir? What company? What company?
A company, first
A
battalion.
company, the first battalion.
And I was ordered to take this company. Wheeler was the regimental commander, and take this ridge line. And then, in order to do it, I had to cross this river. about waist deep, and it was really a freezing winter. Well, we got across it without getting shot up. We lost a few people.
At night or daytime?
Not from wounds, but
night or day?
What do you call it when you get over cold? Hypothermia.
Hypothermia.
We lost a few people from that. But we
did you go over at night or during the day? At night or during the day did you go across?
Yeah.
What, night or day?
We got across.
At night or day?
Oh, this is daytime.
Daytime.
Yeah. We had a recon unit that did just a wonderful job of getting behind the Chinese lines, North Korean lines, and this captain, I can't remember his name, but he was a really a brave individual. Anyhow, he was keeping us informed of where the Chinese were, and what weapons they had and how many. So we would always have artillery. We didn't have aircraft that time to do the job. We didn't have helicopters to lift us from here to there. You had to walk. Well, things were slowed down to a crawl, but we had great air support. We had these Marine pilots that just cut your grass, and they kept the Chinese and the North Koreans off of us.
Kept them down.
Oh boy. Well, anyhow, we got up on this. I got across there and got up on this ridge, and we stayed there for.
They weren't occupying the ridge?
Huh?
They were not occupying the ridge?
No.
No?
No. We were just to take it to expand our
no, but I see
TAOR.
The enemy was not occupying the ridge?
Took it and defended. And that was, so we had mortars and artillery that support us. And they really did a job for us. We had some of the mortars falling in from here to the road right in front of us, 50 feet, and we kept them coming in. We'd fire behind them, see? And they keep moving into us because they're trying to get away from this fire, and they were running in our rifles and machine gun fire, mortars. So we really took them out there. We stayed there for about 6 weeks, and I went back to battalion headquarters time, and the battalion commander was some brand new lieutenant colonel. I don't remember his name. He wasn't much. He had no experience at all, and he just sat in his tent, and his exec, who was a senior captain, should have been a major, but he didn't have any officers. Ran the battalion. Did a good job. But we had a few cowards too, and I was always shocked to find that out. I had one of them, and I kept putting him in the front line and hoping that some of us would get killed, because I couldn't stand the fact that the knowledge that the Marine would be a coward. Be afraid, yeah, but be afraid of the move. That takes courage. But and I had one black. We didn't have any blacks in the Marine Corps at that time, but I had this one black corpsman named Ivory, of all names. Just an outstanding individual. I had one black first lieutenant, the only one in the Marine Corps. And the reason he was in, because he was a great college track man. They brought him in the Marine Corps.
You recall his name?
Huh?
You recall his
name?
Jenkins.
And they sent him out to Korea, and I got him. And I went back to the division and was raising hell about it. I said, how come I got this black lieutenant? Well, you being from the South, we knew that you knew how to handle him, and I said, bullshit. Well, anyhow, I called him in, and I told him, I said, now look, I'm going to put you up here with a platoon that's got a platoon commander, and I want you to keep your mouth shut. ask questions if you really want to know something. I don't want you telling that guy what to do because you don't know what to do. He does. Well, I have to give him credit. He went up there, and one of my good lieutenants, he came back about 2 weeks later. He said he's doing a good job. He said, I think he's ready to take over a platoon. I said, okay. How's his courage? He said, well, I haven't seen that yet. Haven't been under pressure enough. I said, okay. So I took the lieutenant. I said, you go back up there and tell him that he is now in command. And I brought this lieutenant back and sent him back. He'd been out there just about long enough to get ready to go home. I sent him back to regiment for a couple of weeks so he wouldn't get shot. Well, Jenkins, I went up there to see how he was doing, and I had a platoon sergeant up there in World War II, the real strong individual. I said, Sergeant, how's he doing? But I wasn't in his presence. He said, sir, he said, I hate to say this, but he said, I think he's a coward. I said, well, why do you know? He said, well, he said, when there's a fight going on and they're coming in toward us, he says, he's down at the bottom of the hill on a reverse slope. He said, he won't come up near the top. So I went over to talk to him, and I said, no, you're not getting a good reputation out here, Jenkins. I said, they think you're a little bit leery, a little bit scared. I didn't say he was a coward at the time. I said, now, if you can't do better than that, I said, I'm going to relieve you. And I said, my people need leaders, not followers. And they're used to that. And that's what Marines do. They lead, they don't follow. Oh, yes, sir, yes, sir. Well, he's a college graduate, and fine-looking, well-built, tall, and fine-looking Marine, and he spoke good English, not niggerese. So I said, no, I would like to see you do a job of a Marine lieutenant in combat. It's a good one. I'd like to be able to say I had the first black officer in the Marine Corps who was outstanding. Can you do that? Oh, yes, sir, yes, sir. I said, now don't give me that nigger talk. I said, you're an educated man. Speak. Oh, yes, sir, yes, sir. I mean, he changed it, I said, okay. Well, I went back to my company, and about midnight, 1 o'clock, that's when they usually attack. We had a big firefight going on up there, and I called. I said, on the phone. I said, what's going on? Where's the lieutenant? And the sergeant said, sir, I haven't seen him since the shooting started. It's been going on about 2 hours. I said, what do you mean you haven't seen him? Well, sir, he says, he dug a foxhole over here to the right flank, down at the base of the hill, and he said it's deep enough to put a 6x truck in. He said, I haven't had time to go over and take a look. I said, I'll be right up. So I went up, and I said, let your people know I'm coming up now. I went up, and I went over to see that foxhole, it was half as big as this room and this deep. I don't know how he got in there and got out of it without ammunition boxes stacked up or something. But he did, and when I got over there, I looked down, I could see these eyes, his eyeballs coming up. I said, Jenkins, is that you? Yes, sir. What in the hell are you doing down there? Well, I'm preparing a place for the corpsman, sir, so he can bring the wounded in. I said, you get your black ass out of that hole right now. I said, I got to go up here up on the front lines again to talk to these people up there, see how they're doing. And when I come back, I said, you better not be in that goddamn hole or I'll drop a hand grenade in there. Well, I got back about 30 minutes later. I got all the way over on the left flank to check us. Some firing is going on over there. I came back to the thing, I looked in there and I couldn't see anything. I said, Jenkins, are you in there? He couldn't shine a light or anything. And I didn't see anything. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to drop this hand grenade and I'm going to count 3 and you better yell or something that will blow your ass right out of that hole. So I pulled the pin on it. And I meant it. And I didn't hear him. I said, 1, 2, 3, and then I dropped the damn pin. Just blasted it. Of course, you just lay over it, blast him up, and nothing happened. And I realized then he wasn't in that hole. So I called battalion. I said, have you seen Captain Jenkins?
Captain or lieutenant?
He had started running to the
Captain or lieutenant?
Huh?
Captain or lieutenant?
He was, no, Lieutenant Jenkins. And I said, no, we haven't seen him. I said, well, would you check with the regiment, see if they've seen him? And the Germans hadn't seen him. And I told you he was a good runner. This guy ran right past battalion, regiment, and got back to the division evacuation center with the airfield. He lay down on the stretcher and put a patch on him, then to be evacuated. See? And next thing I knew, that he was in Japan. They evacuated to Japan. So I made a report of this. The division commander was Nickerson, Herman Nickerson at that time. He said, well, I'll check the pan. So they checked Japan, and Japan, how was it? Said that they had shipped him out on a boat. Had been gone at sea for 3 days. Well, then what they did was turn around and call the West Coast. And he was going to be sent into, his ship was going into Okinawa, Navy hospital up there. And so sure enough, got up there, and they apprehended him. And this guy must have had an awful lot of pull. The Marine Corps didn't court-martial him or jail him. They reduced him to private, and got a discharge other than honorable, and it means that he got nothing, GI Bill or nothing. So I forgot about it. Several years later, I was in San Diego. I don't remember what, oh yeah. I was transferred to I was heading a school over there on Coronado. It was training people for amphibious operations. And I was over in San Diego one day. And that was where he's from. And I saw this guy. He was a big shot. He had convinced all the blacks back then that he was a hero. And they believed him. I couldn't believe it. And I walked up to him and I said, I understand that you're a big hero back here. Oh, well, you know how it is. You get into politics, you got to use things. I said, yeah, that's right. You're using things. I said, I'm going to tell these people just what you are. And I did. I told the mayor of San Diego, and I told the commissioner, and he was never able to gain an office after that. I don't ever want to know what happened to him after that. But you know, that was a guy who had a chance to do something for his race of people. He could have been real top-notch because he was a hero through college in athletics. and he'd come out there and had done just a halfway decent job, he'd have been a hero to his black people, but didn't. I had in Vietnam, I only had one black. Most of the blacks joined the Air Force, joined the Army, so they could get into anything other than combat. A lot of them joined the Navy. I met some of them in the Navy. They were good people, good men. But we didn't have I would say there probably wasn't 100 of them in the Marine Corps in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. But now Vietnam I never believed in Vietnam. I never believed we should have been there.
We didn't have much choice, though, did we, sir?
But the point is, you receive orders from the Marine Corps and you do your very best.
Right.
And I was sent out to Vietnam, and I went out. There were no battalions open, so I become a regimental exec of the 1st Marines, and then.
Let's go back to Korea. We haven't finished Korea, you know.
Pardon?
We haven't finished Korea, you know.
Oh, where would I got it?
Well, you were starting to tell me how you...
Oh, when I left there, I left on a hospital ship.
You said you got your first Navy Cross and Silver Star there, but you didn't. Your first Navy Cross and your Silver Star.
Yeah.
You got in Korea,
yeah.
But you didn't describe that particular.
Oh, well, this was all day and all night fight that we got up on the ridge line.
Yes, sir.
And the next morning, we had a whole bunch of Chinese out in front of us, and so we went out. I didn't go out. The intelligence officer from regiment came up, and his people. They went through all of these Chinese packs and uniforms and everything to see what information they could get.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the way these people charged at us, that they were doped up because they'd climb over each other to get to you. But
bugles?
They found that they
the bugles and all?
Huh?
They use their bugles in their charges? The bugles.
Oh, yeah, that's how we knew they were coming.
Yeah.
Bugle and cymbal.
Let you know they're coming. Yeah.
Right. And they'd come in throwing rocks too, to get you to shoot. So
yeah.
the way you are. My BARmen and my machine gunners, I had them so that they were interlocking fire.
Naturally.
Ground level. And so they couldn't get past that. But we had I had mortars and artillery firing, and artillery gave me beautiful light.
Was that regiment or battalion artillery?
Hmm?
Regiment or battalion artillery?
Where was
artillery on the battalion or on the regiment level?
Oh,
your artillery.
Regiment.
Regimental.
Right.
Okay.
And
how far back were they normally in the positions like this? How far back were they on positions normally?
They didn't penetrate my position.
No, they wouldn't. No. But I'm talking about the regimental artillery. How far in the rear would they normally have been at that time?
Those the Chinese?
No.
Or my people?
American artillery.
Oh,
regimental artillery.
Oh, they were in. Well, they moved back so that they could fire out 1,000 yards in front of me.
High trajectory or low trajectory?
Huh?
High trajectory?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because then...
The 155s or what? Or 105s?
Well, they had 3 different positions. Close, intermediate, and long range, and they had the big guns back there. And I had 0 of these guns in on where I wanted to
spotting,
shoot. Yeah. And preparation of my fire plan, see. And Jesus Christ, they did a beautiful job. What few got through, we topped them up with machine guns and rifles. But the artillery did a beautiful job on lighting up the area. They did. It's just like just read a newspaper.
Your illumination, yeah.
And of course, they never know. They never hear from anybody, what they've done. So I'd always call back, and if we'd killed 30 or 40, I'd always say they killed 100. We make them feel better. They're doing something. But they did that job. And we had these big 4-deuce mortars then. Those were called chemical mortars.
Chemical mortars, yes, right.
Marine Corps
Big
kept them.
babies. Yeah, I remember.
They kept them, and they used them with the white phosphorus, and they developed an explosive shell for them. Boy, they really used them. They were and they used them individually, in pairs, or in fours. And I never had more than one supporting me at a time, a company. But sometimes when it's really heavy coming in from someplace, all 4 of them would shift over in front of that company. I used those in Vietnam too. Boy, they were something.
Well, what was the basis for your award for that time, sir?
Hmm?
What was the basis for your decoration at that time?
Well, with this night that they tried to overrun us, and I stayed up there. I lost 2/3 of my company at that time. And then the next day, we pulled back and off of this ridge, and the Chinese were not on that ridge, but we pulled back to get in a better position. And we got back. One of my sergeants said, "Sir, we left somebody up there." I said, "What do you mean left somebody up there?" It's about 400 yards. Said, I said, Corporal somebody, I forgot who it was. That he didn't come back with us. And I said, "Well, did he get hit or anything?" He said, "I don't know." Of course, they didn't stop. They were moving back, and one guy didn't come back. Well, they missed him when they count noses when they get back. So I turned the platoon over to the platoon sergeant, and I went back and I found him, and I picked him up and brought him back. Boy, the Chinese were just coming over this hill, and I thought the guy was going to get killed. I had him slung across the back because the damn bullets were going all around. But they missed us. I don't know how, miraculously they missed us. And I got him back. He lived, but he'd been stunned by a close mortar round, and just knocked him unconscious.
That was the basis for the Navy Cross? That was the basis for the cross or for the star?
Yeah, Navy Cross. And Silver Star, I got it here somewhere. Anyhow, the Silver Star ended up on the same thing, really, about a week later. We were
Who ordered the cross, Marine Corps or Navy?
Hmm?
Who ordered the cross, Marine Corps or Navy or Marine Corps?
Who gave me the Navy? The Marine Corps recommended it to the Navy. And the Navy, of course, they'd have to give it at that time.
And who wrote it up?
Silver Star.
Who wrote that up, Reverend Nickerson?
Huh?
Who wrote it up, Nickerson?
Who all did?
Who wrote it up? Who wrote up the recommendation?
Who
made the recommendation?
Regimental commander.
Mm.
I don't know. And I don't know who he was at the time. It wasn't Nickerson. I don't know who it was at the time. I forgot.
And the Silver Star for the same action?
Silver Star, not for the same action, but in the same area. About 2 days later, we ran into the same thing again. But in this case, I was recommended for the Navy Cross again. But that was downgraded to a Silver Star. I didn't even know I was recommended for it until it came out later. And you never know why things are upgraded or downgraded.
Yeah.
But
trying to find the paperwork on those things is awfully rough.
you know, Korea to me, Korea was a necessary battle. We had the Southeast Asian Treaty, and it specifically stated that the definite line of North and South
Demarcation,
Korea, you know what that goes, and that the United States would be definitely siding with South Korea. Now, what the South Koreans did a good job, but a lot of them were a little leery going up there. They weren't. But I learned later. I used to get all bent out of shape when I'd see these bastards sitting around back there, you know. But some of them didn't have weapons. They were poorly trained. They had very, very poor leadership. Leadership was based on family stature, you know, the stature in the village, what relation you were to the village chief. They were terrible. Once in a while, I'd get a good leader, a young man. And usually, you find out he'd been sent back to the States for training. Some of them went through the junior school in Quantico, Virginia.
Oh, I know. I've seen it.
Yeah. In my class, there was about 20 foreign officers. A lot of them were Chinese, Koreans. We even had some Japanese, and they had some people from France, England, different places. I left Korea, went aboard a hospital ship.
Were you wounded?
Yeah, I had.
At the same time, Fryer was.
Yeah.
Fryer says he saw you back in Okinawa.
I can't remember the hospital ship number. The USS Constellation.
Yeah.
I had 2 or 3 shrapnel wounds in the stomach, and they didn't penetrate the stomach. They just penetrated the skin. But the doctors out there said, "You've had enough." I said, "What do you mean I had enough?"
How long have you been there?
Yeah.
I've
been there 8 months.
On the front lines, all of it.
I've been through one winter. I never have seen such heat in my life. We had guys get up on the ridge and fall off backwards, roll all the way back down to the heat prostrations.
And the cold is the opposite.
Yeah. Well, you never know why you're recommended for something. I never did know why. I didn't understand. I thought I was just doing my job, you know. But it counts for something in the Marine Corps, I guess. But Vietnam was something I've never saw.
You said you were evacuated out. Were out through Incheon or how?
Pardon?
Where were you evacuated out? Were you flown out or went out by? You said by Constellation or on the
hospital ship?
Hospital ship.
Oh, I went back to the States with it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and back to Okinawa, California.
Yeah. And Fryer mentioned seeing you in the thing. You must have come back after he did.
After who?
Fryer.
Yeah.
He sounded like he was pretty cut. He was pretty cut up pretty badly. According to his description.
Well, let me tell you about this Fry.
His description.
Did you know Fry?
I haven't met him. I've just talked to him on the phone several times.
How did he get a hold of you? I mean, how did this all come about?
All of a sudden, I got something out of the blue.
Well, Fry was a corporal.
Well, he thinks a great deal of you.
Huh?
He thinks a great deal of you. Let's see the first. Well, there's where he wrote you in 96. He wrote you in 96.
Let me see this.
He wrote you there in 96. And he got me in...
oh, this is... yeah. Fry was a... now, I didn't know Fry know about him until he got wounded.
Yeah. He had been to a reunion, I think, somewhere south. He had been to a reunion down in Florida or someplace, and he...
Well, you know
I guess he heard about us, you know, and thought, He thought you should be interviewed, you know. And so, and he got a hold of me.
I had a platoon sergeant, one of my platoons, that I guess is without a doubt one of the best all-around professional Marines I've ever seen. And he, I couldn't keep a lieutenant down out of the platoon. He kept getting shot up.
Yeah.
So I finally,
happens to second lieutenant.
and I finally, the hell with that.
I've been a second lieutenant, I know.
Platoon leader, and I didn't send any more lieutenants down there. I accused him one time of getting them shot up so he could keep the platoon, but he was outstanding. And Fryer was one of his corporals. Now Fryer, I called all my platoon leaders up. I was up on top of a ridge, and this ridge, we knew that it had been mined. The probability was, but we didn't have enough engineers in to check something. And when you had to move, you didn't have time to wait for an engineer to go checking ahead of you. So I called Sam Bass up, the lieutenant, his lieutenant, his sergeant, and I told all the rest of the platoon leaders, I said, now look, this whole area is heavily mined, and we got to go down this ridge, and I said, we got to cross that river, and I said, that ridge over there, that's what we need. We got to take that and hold it. Well, when they went back down to their units, you know, Sam told us prior, he said, no, when we go over that ridge, see, I was moving out across the ridge this way, and his platoon was over here in the valley, and they were going to follow me in column to cross the river and get up on that ridge. We didn't have to take it, fortunately, because we were wide open. But Fryer, he told Fryer, he said, now don't step off of that trail. These people in front of you, don't step off of it. Well, I was trying, he was about, I would say 40 or 50 feet behind me. And all of a sudden, I got up on the, getting ready to go down on the valley, and I heard it, boom! Jesus Christ, I sent my runner back, and I said, what the hell, see what was going on? And Fryer had stepped off the path to take a piss. And they stepped right on mine, and it got his leg off below the knee, above the ankle. And so we didn't have helicopters for evacuation. We had them, but usually so few.
Yeah, they were just starting that at that time. Yeah.
So we had ambulance jeeps, remember?
Yeah.
So
baskets on each side.
Yeah, they had to put them up, and you put two on top and two in here.
And the baskets sitting on the struts. Yeah.
So I had an ambulance jeep come up and pick him up, take him back, and he damn near died, even if he died. I think some corporal was going along with him, probably saved his life.
2 or 3 there, you know.
So he went back to Okinawa Hospital, and about 3 months later, I went back to the hospital on a hospital ship and went to Okinawa, and I had about 15 to 20 of my people from the company in there, and we had more losses than anybody else because I told them when they come in the company, we are aggressive.
You're on the point with them too.
We're an aggressive organization. I said, and that's our best defense. Be aggressive, keep them under fire. And so we lost a few more, but we also took all of our territory. We never backed off. And the spirit hit these kids too. Boy, they really love that, you know, being proud of being aggressive. So we got back there, and I wasn't seriously wounded. I don't know why the hell they sent me back. But
as you said, you've been there 8 months, and that's enough for anybody.
A while, and I guess they'd use
that enough for anybody.
Right, because they knew otherwise the doctor could send you back, no argument. But if my commanding officer wants to send me back, I could argue him out of it. Well, I got them all up, all of them. I got the Red Cross lady in there, and I said, now, I've got a whole bunch of my people from Korea in here, and those that can, even though they have to go by stretcher, I want to take them down. There was a place, it's 25 miles south of San Francisco, called Half Moon Bay.
Anyway.
You heard of it? And they had a restaurant there. You went down this road, went down this cliff, and you went up this restaurant. Mm-hmm. And I had the woman had reserved the restaurant for us, for me. And I took all, and those who had their wives or their parents out there were invited too. You know, the parents were invited along. I had plenty of money, and so I went down there, and they had a huge fireplace going, and it was cold, it was chilly, and it was right on the beach down there. They all came in, and we had one hell of a ball. Wine was on the house. Nobody drank whiskey or anything there. The wine was on the house, and these kids ate like a pig, because you know, the hospital don't serve steak.
No, not much.
And we had steak this thick, and they would cook to order for each one of them. Fryer was one of those. In fact, I carried him from the ambulance to the restaurant. I never met. Now, when Fryer came back to the States, you know, the hospital, I came on the West Coast, came on back to the East Coast, and Fryer got out of the Marine Corps because he had to, like, and I never heard from him for a long time. And one day I got a letter. He had gone back to college. He got his degree, got his master's.
You've seen that description of that work he did.
He's become a doctor, right?
My God, I didn't know what the hell he's talking about.
And well, first reunion was out in the battalion. No, the first reunion of the company was on the West Coast, and Fryer came. No, it wasn't either. First reunion was. Yeah, it was. It was in Reno, Nevada, and Fryer came down from Oregon, and that's the first time I remember anything about him since the hospital. And then he told me what all he'd done, you know, and I thought, boy, a guy that goes through what he did, and
that was the Reno reunion. Then that was your first one.
You understand? He was at the reunion, and I remembered him then, and he started telling me all about it. He brought his wife, very lovely lady, and they married. And they had, I think they had one or two children. But what really pleased me was that this guy didn't quit. He went to college, got his degree, master's degree. He got his doctorate degree, and he became well known, especially in Japan.
It's obvious, yeah.
Yeah.
What he wrote.
I was really pleased with that. My wife liked him right off the bat.
Well, we've been on the phone several times.
Pardon?
We've been on the telephone several times.
Have you?
Mostly him calling me.
Yeah. Well, he
wanted to know when I was going to do this interview.
Yeah. Well, he was a. It takes courage. It takes courage for a man to take what he did and to make something out of his life. You know. I had another man in Vietnam now, who was with me on a patrol one day. I used to take patrols out as a battalion commander because I didn't have a lot of good lieutenants, and they'd take out a patrol and they didn't know what the hell to tell me. You know how to. They didn't mark anything on the map. They didn't know how to take a patrol. But once in a while, I'd go out myself, And I'll take this.
That pisses regimental off when you do that too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I say that pisses regimental off when you do that too, doesn't it?
Well, at any rate, this guy from Oregon, I mean, he was also from Oregon, and he would follow me one day. No, he was out leading as a scout, and he was taking me around a little minefield. And we were moving around like that. I had about 15 people with us, 2 radio men. One was air to ground radio man, and one was ship to shore, naval gunfire support. And he made a step. Instead of going to the right on the trail, there was another little branch off there. And he turned to the left there, boom. That was it.
Why didn't they put the mines in the path itself? That's what I don't understand.
No. Well, we had plenty of helicopters in Vietnam, so I had one come in and take him out of there. I didn't see him until years later at a reunion we had. Now he also took himself with his belt buckle, and he got what the heck is he doing? Probably a real fine job, and he's got a real nice wife, and I think he's got 1 or 2 children now. And he's got a real fine income, and I like to see this. And I've had others who just quit.
Some of the ragtags that come back to TC in their old sloppy clothing and so forth. We see them out there all the time. We don't know about them. And cry about how bad the war's been to them. Did you have a second tour in Korea?
Huh?
Did you have a second tour in Korea?
No.
No?
No.
You came back in what, 52?
Well, when they sent me back, they wouldn't let me go back.
Came back in 51 or 52?
Vietnam, I had 2 tours.
You came back from Korea in 52?
No, 51.
51.
End of 51.
Mm-hmm. What was your assignment when you came back? After you got out? Oh no.
Well, see, I was sent to Newport, Rhode Island for duty with the Marine Barracks as a security officer. I didn't stay there, but just about 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
They were closing it out, that part of it.
Where was that?
They had a Marine
Was that
barracks.
Cottington Point or where?
Well, when I was up there first, as an enlisted man.
Cottington Point?
When the hell was I there? Jesus, time and places. When I was first there in '39, when I come back from China, they had this little detachment building down there for the Marines.
That was at the main base.
We had
main base at Newport.
36 Marines.
The main base at Newport.
Yeah, Newport.
Yeah.
And so that's where we all stayed, and we ate with the Navy in the general mess hall up there. Well, surprisingly, that's where the Navy had a boot camp at the time.
Oh, I know. Yep.
Yeah. But surprisingly, the food was good. The Navy did a good job. I've been on ships where they just throw slop in there. But
Well, I was at Cottington Point in 42. I was at Cottington Point in 42.
Oh yeah.
And then I went over to the torpedo station.
Where?
Torpedo station in the middle
Newport?
of the bay. Yeah, Newport.
On the island.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Goat Island, yeah. Torpedo
that.
station out there.
Well,
that's all fancy homes now, they tell me. I haven't seen it, but...
Well, you know, the Marine Detachment at the War College, actually,
Well, I was in the Navy.
base
I was
was
in the
the
Navy
torpedo
then,
station.
Yeah, I was in the Navy then.
You
See,
know,
I couldn't get in the Marine
yeah.
Corps. Too
Well,
tall and too skinny.
The torpedo station was the Marine barracks.
That's
and
correct.
And they just
I
sent
know.
the Marines over to War College.
That's right, yeah.
And so, but we lived over there. Now, we were selected because all of them had sea duty. And, you know, knew the naval terminology. And that's why we went. And we lived over there in a little place, had a little apartment. The corporals had a little separate room. Sergeants had.
I've forgotten now.
Well, it's anyhow the big room was where all of us peons.
It'd be around to the south. As you came off the ferry, it was round to the south. Yeah.
But
And the torpedo station was on the north.
Right.
Remember?
But that naval torpedo station, when I was discharged from there, and came home, came down to Miami. But I was discharged in the reserves, and the only reason I went to reserves because they paid you $20 a month.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand
big money.
I was reared in the same area at the same time you were. Well, when you came back from when you were out of Oak Knoll, you went back to Newport, to the same command at Newport.
Where, Newport?
Yes.
No.
Were you a captain by this
At the
time?
Naval War College, you mean?
You were a captain
Oh,
this time?
The commanding officer of the Naval War College was the Captain H.B. McKittrick, and I had been his orderly aboard ship. He was commanding officer of the USS Augusta, and Admiral Darnell was on there as the fleet admiral. Well, I've been McKittrick's orderly, and then transferred to Admiral Darnell's orderly and bodyguard. Because when he went ashore, I had to go ashore with him with weapons. That's getting pretty tough country out there then. And
So what was your duty at that time when you went back this time? You were a captain by this time or a major?
yeah.
What?
Well, with that.
Were you a captain or a major when you went back this
when
time?
I was with Darnell.
No. When you went back to after Korea, when you went back
major
to
then.
major then.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, that's the time element we're in
I
now.
was a major then. And
What was your duty there? Were you in school, in class?
They had a main barracks, but it wasn't where they used to just have a little detachment building, and they closed out the Marine barracks on the torpedo station because they closed the torpedo station.
That's right. Yeah.
So they had it down between the Marine barracks was between the Naval War College along the river there.
Thames River.
Huh?
Thames. The Thames River, wasn't it? T-H-A-M-E-S? No,
Yeah.
no,
No, it wasn't Thames.
no, it wasn't Thames.
That's in Europe.
I know, but I'm trying to think of the name of it. There was a Thames Street, I know
We had
that.
Marine barracks there.
Yeah.
And so I was stationed there for just for a while. But I went over to War College and to meet some of the Marines. You know, after I went aboard the aircraft carrier, we pulled into Narragansett Bay in '56, I think. And I went over to visit with these people, see how they're doing. I didn't know any of them. No, that was good duty. I love the Marine Corps.
You were there about 8 months, you say? You were only there about 8 months this time?
Yeah.
You were only there 8 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to go to the head.
All right, go right
You got
ahead.
the head?
No, not at the moment.
Well, it's right through there.
All right, you go right ahead.
I got one up this way I can use.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I better, just to make sure. Ooh, the legs are stiff. You have to be careful where you walk here, don't you? All right, sir, thank you. collected a lot of things in your lifetime, haven't you?
Pardon?
You collected a lot of things in your lifetime.
Yeah, it's bigger than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we bought this about 25 years ago.
I see you collected an awful lot of things here.
I got this 2 acres here inside the fence.
Oh, yeah?
I use my recreation hobby is gardening.
Me too.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting ready to plant my tomatoes.
I got mine in just before I left.
You already got yours in the ground?
Yeah. You're kind of late down here, aren't you?
Where are you from? Up around Washington?
Yeah, Woodbridge. You know where it
I didn't
is?
think it was warm enough up there yet.
Yeah, it was, yeah. 1 May is our last frost date.
I plant tomatoes and bell peppers.
I got mine in.
And beans.
Not many. I don't put in many beans.
Well,
I used to put in cucumbers.
She cans a lot of stuff.
Well, my wife can't can.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you in Washington D.C. proper?
No.
Where?
Woodbridge. I work in Washington D.C. I work in the Navy Yard.
Where do you live?
Woodbridge. You know where it is? Woodbridge.
Oh, Woodbridge. Yeah.
Just
I
south,
got some friends that live in Woodbridge.
Yeah. It's 8 miles from 10 miles from Quantico.
Yeah. I've got some friends.
The reason I moved down there was that I was at the museum.
One is named Kincaid.
Kincaid. No.
He was a major, one of my officers in Vietnam. One is named Brady. Brady was a major, was a pay officer in China, second tour.
There are a lot of people living, a lot of Marines living down there.
There's a lot of Marines live up there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me why you don't think much of the commandant. Well, what's his problem up there?
He's a goddamn prude.
Huh?
He's a goddamn prude.
Prude? Of course, I never knew that about him.
Well, maybe a little bit like his old man. Very much like his old man.
Yeah. Is he?
His old man, you know.
Is he respected by up there?
Oh yeah, but he's just another comer. He's not popular.
One of the congressmen up there was a major with me in Vietnam. He was in the 1st Marines, and I had a battalion, and he used to stay down there with me all the time. Now his.
And we left that on.
Okay, you want to get back to this?
That's all right. No, go ahead. I say I left it on. I didn't know that.
Where are we now?
I can't tell if it's still going or not. I guess it is. Yeah. Who was it? You said somebody else lived there? You said somebody else lived there? Somebody else lived at Woodbridge that you knew?
No, not to know of.
No. I shouldn't have said that about Krulak on there.
You got something on here that's wrong.
Oh, that's possible.
Number of years.
You went back to Lejeune from law school, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty long tour considered. That's a pretty long tour. You hadn't had a long tour like that.
It was, but at that time, the Marine Corps was short of officers, and especially colonels, line colonels.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's no regiment open, no battalions open. So General Wheeler says, I want you as my law officer. I mean, as my division inspector. And I asked him why, and he said, well, he said, I've got some weak battalion commanders who are not training their battalions like they should. And I said, well, sir, I know that. I made the report to you. And so 2 or 3 of those battalion commanders were relieved after I submitted my report. One of them came up to me and said, why did you write me down? I said, why did you do a piss poor job as a battalion commander? I said, I would hate to be in your battalion and have to go into combat. I said, you don't even know what the hell your people can do. You don't even know what your operation officer can do, if he's good or not. I said, I'll tell you something. He's good. But I said, you won't listen to him. He comes up with a plan of training for a month. You change it because you 2 or 3 of those nights you have to stay in the field with your troops, and you don't want to leave your quarters. Oh, we had a bunch of them like that then. None of them had any combat experience either. Well, General Wheeler, when I made these reports, they had to report to him in division headquarters. They didn't like that. I made some enemies, but they weren't. I could care less about them. We got some of the battalions, regimental commanders rather, were eventually commanded by lieutenant colonels. Didn't have any good colonels around there. Some of the battalions were commanded by majors. And none of the lieutenant colonels in that battalion had enough experience to go up and take over regiments, or even exec. So I had one guy, one regimental commander, threaten me. He had Congressional Medal of Honor, and he was lazy, and I don't ever know. Nobody knows how he ended up with a Congressional Medal of Honor. So I don't either. But I regiment when I spent 3 weeks infecting his regiment, 3 battalions and headquarters company, and I found one battalion that was a top-notch battalion, and it had a top-notch commander. But the other 2 commanders were very piss poor, and he was very weak. He was living on the Congressional Medal of Honor. So I wrote this up just like that and sent it to headquarters Marine Corps. He had to appear before the general. Of course, I went with him. Anytime the general had a question, he'd ask me. And I'm trying to remember what this guy's name was. I never did like him. I never had any respect for him. I'm sure he didn't like me. Bill something. Now, he did an outstanding job to get that medal. He earned it. But he turned it into a gimme thing, you know. I forgot it. At any rate, he was relieved of his command. Did you know General Wilhelm?
Yeah.
Well, Wilhelm was one of my lieutenants in Vietnam.
He runs a tourist concern out of Alexandria now.
Yeah. Well,
he can be a bastard sometimes.
I never knew.
He can be a bastard sometimes. I know a lady that worked for him. She said, I couldn't work for him.
How he was ever selected for general. I had him as a lieutenant, and he wasn't a hotshot lieutenant. And I wrote him down on a couple of his fitness reports that he had courage, but he didn't have initiative. You know? He didn't have knowledge. He wasn't paying attention. And he was well liked, very popular with his troops. Now, when he was selected for Brigadier General, I was shocked. A lot of the other officers who were in the battalion at that time in Vietnam were shocked. Can't believe it. But he spent a lot of time at headquarters Marine Corps. Now you notice that all these generals guys that make general are in headquarters Marine Corps.
Well, they gravitate toward it. They pull them in there.
All of them up there, every one of them. I got who was it? There's 2 or 3 of them that I knew I was company commanders with, colonels with, that was selected for general. And I couldn't see where the hell they come from. I knew their background from A to Z. Like everybody knows everybody else's background, but I don't know where it come from. Some of them had served not only with Headquarters Marine Corps, but with the Congressional Liaison, and that's where they pick this stuff up. See, these congressmen say, "Hey, I'd like to have him make Brigadier General."
Well, it's still a selection committee, you know.
Yeah.
There's still a selection committee there. It's not just one person that selects him, you know.
Right. The command that I had in California, Coronado, was the Landing Force Training Command. And I had, initially, I was exec of this training command as a Brigadier General. And he was piss poor. He'd never been in infantry, never been in combat. He spent years and years at Headquarters Marine Corps. And I had a major. I was exec to him. And I had no respect for him whatsoever, but I did the job. I had a major who wanted to, who was stationed there with us as an instructor. And he got orders overseas. Well, he went in to see the general about getting extension and stay there at the school, you know. He'd just gotten married. And the general wrote a letter to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. He denied it. He wrote a letter to the Commandant of the Marine Corps to have his commission revoked. And goddamn if it didn't do it on anything more than that letter, see. Well, the admiral who had the naval base there, Landing Force Training Command, come under him. And I went in to see this, my general. I said, "I think you're wrong, absolutely wrong." I said, "Who the hell are you to say?" I said, "You've never been overseas except Europe." I said, "You've been in a public relations office all your career. You've never been in combat. I'd be ashamed to wear those silly goddamn National Guard ribbons you got on." I really let him have it. Well, he said, "That's my decision." I said, "Yes, sir." So I went over to see the admiral. And this guy was coming up for Major General. I went over to see the admiral, and I told him just what was going on over at school. There was 4 schools under the admiral and the base. And apparently he called Headquarters Marine Corps. Anyhow, he says this general is going to come in with an unsatisfactory fitness report, and he gave him an unsat, and he never made Major General. He was out the following year or so. You know, you come up twice before you. Right. Yeah.
Pass over.
As soon as he came up the second time, 2 days after that, he was out. He had a nice family, very nice family, and because of his contacts in headquarters and Congress, his son was sent to the Naval Academy, flunked out. I can't remember that asshole's name.
I'm sorry, maybe we shouldn't say it. Maybe we shouldn't say it here.
Right. But
well, I see here you lapsed into supply.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well,
you've been in command. And inspector positions all the time, and all of a sudden, you're going into supply.
Well, I didn't know I didn't know enough about where my material that I requisitioned came from, or how it was done, and I had these supply officers who weren't able to explain it either. So I said, well, this is probably a good career move, but I'll find out all about it. So I put in for a supply school.
At Albany, yeah, I think.
Yeah, and finished that, and let's see, where was that, Camp Lejeune?
No, Albany was your supply center school.
Where was the school?
School was at Albany. Albany, Georgia.
No.
That was your supply school, was Albany, Georgia.
Oh, Albany, right. All right. And then that took over a huge area at Albany, the storeroom and warehouses and stuff. And I got into that, and I found out just what a bunch of yahoos these officers, supply officers, and civilians were. Jesus Christ, they were all bullshit artists. And if they'd forgot to or requisition something, you know, they would come up with 15 reasons why it wasn't done. So the commanding general of at that time was a real fine brigadier general from Florida. His name starts with an A. Anyhow, Simpson relieved him.
Ormond Simpson?
Yeah. And Simpson and I never did hit it off too well. So I told him what he could do with his supply business. He called me up one day and said, well, I don't think you're doing a good job as supplies down there. I said, well, General, I said, you know what you can do with this supply bed? You can jam it right up your ass. I said, I didn't want to be a supply officer in the first place for Korea. Oh, I know what got him mad. He asked me if I would change my MOS, you know, to supply. And I said, sir, not only no, but hell no. And that pissed him off. He said, why? I said, what the hell? Supply officers are just skivvy counters. That's all they are. And I was wrong. I mean, it takes a good supply people to keep the Marine Corps going. But I didn't want to be a supply officer. So,
as even there, you went back to Parris Island.
So I went to supply school to find out how things were run, when I put a requisition in, where it went to, and so on, and where they got their materials for backup. Then that's when he asked me if I wanted to be a supply officer. No. And I think I went to Parris Island from there.
Correct.
Now, Parris Island, all of the units were filled up with commanders who had just got there. So I was the base commander and the recreation officer.
Executive officer, it says here. It says you were exec here.
Well, I looked at the recreation, and this is what I found. These battalions, all of the training battalions, were given all this football gear, you know. And I'm looking at the records. They lost 6 to 8 weeks of training. Each one of the battalions had a football team. And they consisted of about 26.
But they were inter-service, right? I mean, they were
Yeah.
They weren't playing
Yeah.
other forces. They were playing against one another, were they not?
Right. Well, I made a study of that. And I went to each one of these battalion commanders out there, recruit battalions, and I said, look, you got 40 recruits here that are playing football. I said, they do nothing but play football. They don't get trained. I said, now they lose 4 months of training. I said, now, all we're doing this for is the glory of the battalion commander. I said, these guys didn't come here to play football. They come here to get the goddamn training. Well, all the battalion commanders got pissed off because they like to play ball against each other. They sit there and make bets and all that stuff. Big social functions, see?
Intramural, they called it.
Well, I wrote the whole damn thing, the 4-page report on this. What a waste of money. I said, the base personnel who are not jocks, I said, don't get any of this money. And General Masters was the commanding general at the time, and I laid it out in front of him. He called the battalion commanders in, and he says, as of today, I want all jock straps and equipment turned in to the base special services. I want all playing equipment turned in. I want no athletic activities unless it's in the schedule, or training schedule. And they had their own foot races, jumps, pull-ups, and the regular thing. Mm-hmm. They didn't have fancy uniforms. Each one of them had a different uniform. Each battalion, different colors, different. They even had official names for their team. Well, Masters called his 3 guys up, and he said, turn all their gear in except what you need for local stuff. And all the uniforms came in, and we didn't even have a base team. So I went to the various schools within the vicinity and found out that none of them had any uniforms or anything. So I took all the shoes, and all the pads, all the uniforms, helmets, and I divided them out into the 4 schools over there, 4 different schools. And I had them come in and pick them up, and I dropped them off the books, took the receipt up to the generals. Good. I kept enough stuff that they could play touch football.
Intramural, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know, ever hear of Jim Masters?
Sure.
Huh?
Sure.
Yeah, he and his brother.
John Masters.
Huh?
John.
Yeah. I liked his brother when I did him. He was a nasty son of a bitch.
I don't know him that well.
Huh?
I didn't know him that well.
But his brother was a real fine.
I only saw them occasionally, you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite on their same level, sir.
Where are we here now?
Well, see, you went back to West Coast. You all of a sudden decided you didn't want to be an East Coast Marine anymore. So you went back to, you were promoted Lieutenant Colonel somewhere in there. And you went back to the West Coast as Headquarters Company, 3rd Marine, 3rd Marine. And finally, Battalion Commander of the 1st Battalion.
Yeah.
1st Marines, 3rd Marine, back on the 3rd again.
Well, as a battalion commander, I was responsible for the TOR of everything from Da Nang south to Chulai, and from the ocean all the way over to Highway 1 and west of Highway 1 to the edge of the mountains, which was about 4 times more than a battalion, reinforced battalion should have had to cover. But we had moved some of the units up north because they were having a hull problem up in Way and Fubai. So while the units were moving up during the night, the VC and NVA, about a battalion, over 600 of them, had moved into my area during the night. That's where I had just one company out there. And they told me they were moving in, and I said, okay, move back. Move north and south. Don't contact them, stay away from them. Let them come in. I knew they were going to, this outfit was the one that was coming in. They were going to cross the river and go north into the helicopter airfield. See? So I reported this to General, who the hell was it? It wasn't Wheeler. Who was it? He made 4-star general, 3 stars at the time. He's I forgot these names. Outstanding general.
I wish I could say now, but I'm not.
Oh, I remember
Anyhow,
he called me and he said, "What can you do about it?" And I said, "Well, what can you do for me?" And I said, "I don't have really enough people to do the job." He said, "I'll send you one company."
What was the strength of the VA unit or VA?
Lou Wall was it?
Oh, Lou Wall. Yeah.
So I said, yes, sir, that'll do it.
What was the strength of the enemy force coming in? What was your estimate of that?
Well, we just held them there.
What was your estimate of their numbers?
This was the 1st Battalion, 1st Marines.
No, I meant of the enemy troops. What was your estimate of how many?
The regiment?
No, of the VC.
Oh, it was one of their main force units. I don't know what. 128.
Larger than a
128
regiment,
yeah.
Regimental level.
And they were a bunch of guys that had fought against the French down in Denville Fuse. they were tough and seasoned. Well, anyhow, I moved this company back near south and north, and they could see them coming in. And they came in. Of course, they had to stop. They had to stop for a while for all of them to catch up. And I had sent another company reinforced across the river, across Highway 1, and I had a box like that. Well, then when they came in, I had one other company flown in by helicopters, closed the gap. I had them at a square, and we were maybe 6 or 8 feet apart. And in this, during this time, this was called Operation Stone. And during this time, I had all of the companies firing, north and south, and they would quit, and the east and west would shoot. It's like an accordion. And then in the meantime, I was dropping artillery and mortars, and I couldn't use aircraft.
What was the area where they were? How large was the area?
West of Hoi An.
How large was the area? How large was the area?
How large?
That you lured them
about
into?
a mile square.
Mm-hmm.
We finally worked them into a mile square, and finally I set the system up so that the north and south would fire, and then they'd quit, and the east and west would fire, and finally 4 days and 4 nights, the morning, 3 days and 3 nights. The morning of the 4th day, we ceased fire because we weren't getting in return fire. And I walked over there, walked around, over 600 VC killed in a pile out there. See? That was the biggest victory we had at that time. And this was in 1967. They'd been kicking our ass all over the place. The armies, especially the army people down south, and the South Vietnamese, I could have killed them. They had what they call the PLCs. They were sitting at home and we'd be going out to fight. They'd be sitting in their houses smoking, "Hey Joe," you know. And sometimes I just started to throw a hand grenade and damn. But at any rate, General Walt came out there.
Was this the basis for your second Navy Cross? Was this the basis for your second Navy Cross?
Yeah. And because I went out with my small staff radio operator and my runner and my naval gunfire officer, my artillery forward observer. And what the hell was it? Naval gunfire fired a few rounds, but I figured it's too dangerous, so I had to cut them out. Now my forward artillery observer could fire. He was also qualified as a naval observer.
Gunfire.
Right, naval gunfire officer. So anyhow, we just piled these people up out there, and General Westmoreland flew all the way up from Saigon to see what was going on, to see what he'd heard about it overnight. But General Walt advised him. He said, that battalion is still fighting. He said, I don't want anybody going in there to visit and mess up that colonel while this battalion's fighting. I want his complete, undivided attention. And that's what he got. And we got the few that got away. We could hear them screaming in the woods there. They'd been shot in the stomach. My people, I have always trained my people to fire low. And I said, if you kill a man, I said, you got one man. But if you could just wound him or break a leg, it takes 4 to carry him back. And I said, that ties up 5 people. Well, at any rate, at the end of it, General Walt flew in.
Well, if you had them boxed, they didn't get out, did they?
Huh?
They didn't get out, did they? You had them boxed
No, he didn't.
from all four sides?
He didn't come out there either.
No, I say you, they couldn't get out if you had them boxed on all four
Yeah.
sides, did you?
Yeah. Well, at any rate, this famous Highway 1 that ran from Hanoi all the way down to Saigon
Right.
was my dividing line, east and west. See? And I walked all the way out there by myself with this my radio operator because I didn't have anybody to spare. I didn't even have enough to spare as a scout. I didn't have anybody. Usually you take a squad, you know, with you if you're going to move into the field, in the combat area. A fire team forward, a fire team back, and one fire team right there with the command group. So I didn't have any of that to spare. And I walked out there, and I stayed with them until it was over. And when it was over, General Walt called down and wanted to know if I'd finished it. And I said, I don't see anybody else standing out there, General. Come on in. He came out and he walked around and he congratulated, I think, just about every man in that battalion. And when General Westmoreland came, I got some pictures of that here somewhere. You know, use photographs of them.
We do.
You do?
We do, yes, sir.
Well,
Kazan, would you like to go through that anecdote a little bit more here? Again?
I flew into Quezon to check it over, and I found this Green Beret captain up there who was
You
scared.
said General Walden sent you down?
Pardon?
You said General Walden sent you down
Yeah.
to check this out?
So when I questioned him, he was shaking up so much and he wanted to know if the Marines were coming in. And I said, well, I don't know. I'll find out. So when I went back, I made my report to General Walton. And General Walton reported to General Westmoreland down in Saigon that what was going on. And so General Westmoreland had this Green Beret captain relieved and stripped of rank, period. We made a private out of him. So he said, I want you to send a battalion up there. And I want you to search 360 degrees. See? And he said, I'll send a South Vietnamese company up there, Jesus Christ. You know? So at any rate, I flew up there with a battalion, and here pretty soon here comes this company of Arvin. He called them up from Chulai. No, it's not Chulai. Fubai. And they flew in, and I met the captain, and he was sort of a little bitty, scrawny, scary thing. So, at any rate, we stayed. We were going to stay a month and searched 360 degrees all the way out to the hills, you know. So, I took the three quarters. I kept one company back with me, and this Arvin company. You know what Arvin is. And they went out all the way out, and it was out 2 or 3 days, and they couldn't find a thing, nothing, not even a shell or anything. And none of the natives had seen anything. So I brought them back in, and the company commander had gone out just out of my sight, and he sat down with his company. And one of the nuns put him on report. He said, he's coward. So I grabbed the captain. I really physically grabbed him, pulled him up off his feet. I said, I ought to shoot you right now. I said, you left my back open. Well, fortunately, there was nothing in that area. So. Well, then I was ordered to, after I made a report, to walk out Route 9 all the way to it's 30 miles out Route 9. And Route 9 had not been traveled over 9 or 10 years. The French were the last ones to come down there. Well, when you're doing that, you don't want to travel on the road when you're moving out of something. You move off to the side. Well, the river was on the right, so I couldn't move that way, so I moved to the left. And that's what this is. I'm coming back from Saigon.
Talking about this picture here.
I'm in Quezon. Here I am here. The road is over here, see. And this is my radio operator. I was in tough, good shape then.
Kind of putting your operator out in front of you, is that normal?
Huh?
I say putting your radio operator out on the point,
Yeah.
That's not a very good idea, is it?
Now this is
He's describing some of the photographs he has here.
General Walt, and this is General Nickerson, General.
That's Nickerson? Well, I thought he had a little beard there for a minute.
And this is what the hell is it? Westmoreland, the commanding general of all fighting forces, and that's another. This is a brigadier general. And this is one of my company commanders. Now, I carried grenades all the time. And somebody asked me that. I said, well, that's certainly not for show, I'll tell you. I said, I can kill more people with one of these at one time than I can by shooting. I said, a pistol ain't worth a damn beyond 50 yards. So it got so that all of my people started carrying grenades up. We tape them. So they wouldn't come loose. See?
Yeah. After you sweat, though, doesn't that kind
Right?
of? After you sweat, though, doesn't that tape kind of loosen up
Well,
a bit?
I never had one pull loose.
No.
No. Now this is General Walt, and this is a small prison that I had made when down in Da Nang when I captured all these. You didn't capture many, but those that you captured, you put them in prison, and then the G2 would come down and question them. See? This is General Walt.
And the inscription says to
He
Ding
was
Wong,
Assistant Commandant of Marine Corps a little later on, 4-star general.
and the presentation says to Ding Dong, which is a nickname of the colonels, with admiration and appreciation. Best wishes, L.W. Walt, C.G., 3rd MAF, Da Nang, 1 May. I'm saying that for the record, sir.
And this is General Westmoreland. He's asking me a bunch of questions about all those people we killed in one pile hour. Of course, he wasn't too popular as commander, Westmoreland. And this is General Lam, who had the he was a South Vietnamese paratrooper, and he worked in my area with my permission.
Pretty fancy beret there.
Well, he was good.
Pretty fancy beret there.
Yeah, that's for French. But he was good. We trained some of these people, the Marine Corps, and so they were, we knew, and they attached them to us an awful lot of times, see. And this is General Walt, Big Lou Walt, and this is the aide to General Westmoreland. I don't know who his name was. He didn't impress me much.
Havlen, H-A-A-B-L-E-N.
And this is, of course, this is General Westmoreland. The guy that relieved him really did some good work. Abrams. Now when I was just second lieutenant, young kid.
You look like you'd hardly started to shave. Doesn't look like you'd hardly started to shave there yet.
What?
Looks like you'd hardly started to shave there yet.
Yeah. But I'd been around the Marine Corps a while. I'd had some battles. Now this is Wilson. And this is the meeting General Lam, who had the 1st Arvin Division up in the...
Yeah.
This is when I smoked. I don't know who took that picture. But this was right after a long, drawn-out fight we had, and I weighed 170 pounds there. I was in tip-top condition. Taking a break for a smoke. Now this is came from this is U-Wall, and this is General Lom, and this is up in Quezon. This is I can't remember that general's name. I don't remember what the hell is it? Now these are pictures here. This is my radio operator. Oh, no, this is the forward air controller and the naval gunfire officer. And this is one of my troops. This little girl was injured when we were shelling this place. And this is the same guy here.
These are 4x5 proofs on one sheet.
And this is, of course, doing another inspection. They finally, later on, the general gave me 3 assistants to help me do all it, because I was doing it all myself. I was just getting worn out. See?
Doing all what?
For the whole division, the inspectors. Mm-hmm. Now this was a parade in Newport, Rhode Island when I was up there, the company officer.
1949, Armistice Day.
They don't have that uniform anymore in the Marine Corps.
Nope.
The blue caps. And this is General Nickerson here, in another formation, getting another Purple Heart. And this is the division commander. I can't remember his name. He's a good man.
Always got their backs to you.
Huh?
Always got their backs to you, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you read his name?
Fred Haynes. Fred Haynes, isn't it?
Hayes, Fred Hayes,
Fred
right.
Haynes.
Yeah, he was a good man.
No, Fred Haynes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know him. He lives in, he was at Iwo Jima. Been working with him on that, on some of that, I've got to finish up his interview. He lives there in Arlington, just across the river from us. Yeah, I like Fred Haynes.
And here's where one day I was in formation, this General Walt, I got 3 awards at one time. You know. This is the board ship after I just taken over command.
So in Yorktown? On the Yorktown?
Huh?
On the Yorktown? On the Yorktown?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a follow-up to that exchange of colors.
Now this is one of my, Bill Freeman, he writes for this paper down there. He was my adjutant, and when I needed an extra platoon commander, he took that too. A real outstanding, he just wrote this up.
Where is he? What paper? What paper?
Huh?
What paper? What paper is he writing for you?
It's down in southern Mississippi here.
Baton Rouge?
What the hell is that name of it?
Pretty much the same thing as this one right here.
I was crossing this river on this old Vietnamese boat, fishing boat, and they started getting a heavy sniper fire from over here.
3 1/4, 4 1/4 print.
Here's a
Very
bigger
dark.
picture of the same thing.
Yeah.
Fortunately, nobody was hit
Postcard
there.
size.
Now this is they used to dig caves in here like this, and they go straight down. And you used to have to, Marines would used to have, small Marines would have to go down in there and dig these people out. And this is one of the kids, he just killed 3 of them down inside there.
Can't
It tastes guts.
can't they seal these off instead?
Yeah, it tastes guts for that.
Couldn't seal them off instead?
Huh?
Isn't it easier to seal them off all the
Oh, yeah.
entrances though?
Yeah.
I couldn't go down in there. I get claustrophobia.
Now this is in Korea. This is in the wintertime. That's 2 of my sergeants. We were cooking our meals. This is one of the VC that we captured. It was stunned. This company commander's outfits, we got in a fight with them and it stunned them, and this is the only one that lived. This is the interpreter asking him questions. This is my radio operator calling in grid coordinates. We're getting ready to cross the river. And I always fired on the opposite bank. Had artillery cover me while I was crossing the river. Coming out of Quezon, I'd call for airstrikes. And this is coming out like this. The road is over here. I had a half a dozen snipers firing at us. So rather than send troops out there, I had aircraft coming in, dropping napalm. He had a bunch of crispy critters around there pretty soon. I think it says on the back what I'm doing there.
Operation Keating? Hastings. Operation Hastings.
Now this is another battle I had that started out with just a few snipers, but ended up fighting a whole damn battalion of these people. They'd come out of the woodwork, and we wiped them out, mostly with napalm. And once the napalm started on them, and one of them would see the other one's on fire, they'd break and run. Whereas bombs wouldn't do that to them. But boy, napalm just did it. And I used napalm as much as I could.
Didn't do much good to sit and roll either.
This is one of my other good company commander. I'm pointing out to Westmoreland, another group of. He's always coming up to my battalion from Saigon. And this is General Wilson, Brigadier General.
It's not Louis. That's not Louis Wilson.
What?
That's not Louis Wilson.
No.
Yeah.
Now this is a colonel who came down from division. I was getting ready to go out on a real hairy-ass battalion-size patrol called the Combat Patrol. And this patrol was west of Highway 1 out into the mountains. And I can't remember the mountain name, but we had been harassed from there for 2 or 3 months. And it was getting heavier, so General Wall said that I think that this should be a battalion job.
Strength, yeah.
So I'm getting them all out of them, I'm instructing all of these people on what I want them to do. And this is a liaison down from division. He brought the message down to me. This is where we had a whole bunch of kids, and some were sick. They never had any medicine. So when I found out, I called back division and told them that I was going to be delayed there for 2 days. And we treated everybody in the division and fed a lot of the kids that were starving to death.
Mm-hmm.
This is, believe it or not, the tastiest thing out there was bread and ketchup. It's better than sea rations. This was incomplete. I don't know where the rest of the stuff is. I got a whole boxes full of this stuff. You ain't got time to look it up.
No, not today. But we might want to get all that for copying later, Colonel. That would be probably the best thing to do.
Okay.
I can send large self-addressed envelopes and everything, first class postage, you know, and then once we copy them, we can get them back to you.
Well, how did Fryer get in touch with you, or why would he get in touch with you?
As the oral historian.
Huh?
As the oral historian.
Yeah.
Yeah. As the oral historian, you know. Yeah. Well, once he got a hold of me, then I asked him what else he had, and then, of course, he wrote most of this on the account of himself, you know. So, no, that was on the telephone too, you know. A lot of it was on the telephone. We didn't do a lot of it by correspondence, sir. Well, you just had this, you had just this one tour then in Vietnam? You just had the one tour in Vietnam?
Yeah.
The one tour from 66 to 67?
60. Actually, it was 1 January '66 to June or July of '67. But at the end of my first year, I went back home on leave. That's when I got married.
Oh, yeah.
And then I came back. I had extended. Went back and got married and then came back for another 6 months as battalion commander.
Yeah.
So the whole time that I was in Vietnam, I commanded the battalion.
Well, the Legion of Merit, well, everybody knows when you get the Legion of Merit, that's when you retire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I had people say, Colonel Bell, you're crazy if we're coming back out here. And I said, hey, the Marine Corps is fighting out here. That's where you belong. Marines supposed to be here. And would you believe we had a lot of colonels that went in, lieutenant colonels that came in the division, and General Walt wouldn't give them a battalion. They didn't really want it.
Oh.
Marine colonels didn't want a battalion in combat, and goddamn,
What else would they want?
Huh?
What else did they want? They wanted something in
Oh, they've been sitting back.
2, 3, and a 4, or something like that, or they want to be on just want to be on.
Lieutenant to lieutenant colonel.
But they just want to be on staff, or what?
Well, none of them got promoted. Period. They could sit back there, and I had the guy that relieved me was I knew him. He's from Greece. I mean, he was a Greek fellow. I knew him. He's a real nice fellow. But my battalion was used to having me out there in the companies with them at night or in a fight or something. They were used to being aggressive, you know. They were used to my staff being aggressive. Everybody was aggressive. This kept the VC off balance. They didn't know what the hell to do, you know. They never run into that before. So when this guy came out to relieve me, I told him, I said, now look, this is an aggressive battalion, and I said, they will fight for you as hard as they fought for me, but I said, you've got to lead them. You can't follow them. And you can't sit your ass back here in the safe CP. That's where they sat. And the morale of the battalion went down. So instead of being aggressive, they were just being completely defensive. And as a result, very little was done in the next 6 months while this battalion came out. So finally, he was relieved. Another battalion came in. Another lieutenant colonel came in, And all he wanted to do was keep it for 90 days. You had to have a battalion command at least 3 months before it counted as a command. See? He just wanted for 90 days to get it on his record as a command in combat. And he sat on his ass in that, back in the CP. This adjutant of mine told me, he said, I'm sorry, he said, I didn't believe when you did, Colonel. He says, this battalion, the morale was going right to the bottom. And at one time, it was known throughout Vietnam as the best battalion out there. So, now, I'm saying this because it's true. Well, you only get this reputation from leadership. And my company commanders had leadership. I mean, they really had it. They'd come in to me before they, report in for duty, and I'd tell them, I said, now, why did you come to the battalion? He said, well, we heard about it from division, and we wanted to get in the battalion, the best battalion. And I said, well, that's fine, but why?
I didn't know they normally gave them a choice.
Yeah.
I didn't know they gave them a choice. I thought when you came out there, you were assigned, period.
That's right. So I told him, I said, now, before I give you a company, you better tell me that you're going to be aggressive, you're going to know how to use supporting arms, and if you don't know how to use supporting arms, tell me now, because I'll teach you here in the battalion. And then when you go there, he said, well, what's so important about supporting arms? And I looked at him and I said, have you been through the basic school? Well, yes, sir, but they didn't say much about that. And I said, okay. I said, you got air coming in. I said, you got a bunch of VC over there. You got to cross an open field. I said, now you can't use air in a forest, but you can use it in the open field, rice paddies. I said, you fry them. I said, you don't have to put your men at risk. Just keep down and keep firing so as you keep them herded in, and then aircraft come in and burn them up or bomb them out. I said, now, another thing, when you're crossing an open area, I said, don't cross it without obliterating the forest area on the other side with artillery and mortars.
Keep them down.
Yeah, I said, then once you get that going real good, I said, get up and walk. I said, you probably won't get a shot fired at you the whole way. Well, this gave the troops confidence, that their officers were not only taking care of them, but giving them a chance to do some fighting, without getting killed or torn up. The morale goes up when they find this, that the officers were always leading instead of following. Well, you don't lead unless your troops' morale's down. You don't have to get out in front. But when it's necessary, it's for that officer to get out and lead, and I said, your morale will come up. And I learned this as an enlisted man, for Christ's sake. In World War II, the guys that I followed the Helen Garden were the guys who got up and led. And we had some that wouldn't get out of a damn hole to lead. They'd say, you, move up there, you, move up there. This is fine if he's trying to make some maneuver effort. But when he doesn't come up with his own outfit, you look askance at it. So what the hell's wrong with this guy? And I had some. They weren't exactly cowardly. They were just reluctant to to move forward. We had some in Bougainville. Bougainville was a real nasty place, and we had some. When we went into Bougainville, the beach went in about 20 feet, and then it dropped right off in the swamp for about, Jesus. So he had to fight through that.
A good description of that example. Yeah.
So I told him we had a good hydrographic readout on that from the Navy. They had gone in with their what do you call it, recon, what do you call it? They weren't SEALs then.
Infrared?
They weren't SEAls then. They were.
Oh.
See, no. Anyhow, UDT.
Yeah.
They send them in and get this information back.
We hauled some in there.
Yeah.
You
Oh, I would tell them.
I was on the destroyer
Right.
escort. We used to haul those guys
Right.
in there.
I
At
would tell
night,
them.
most of the time. We went in at
Yeah.
night.
I would tell them what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And I said, now you're going to get naval gunfire in the edge of that forest where it drops off. I said, we've already been included that that's a swamp from there. One kid said, is there snakes in that swamp? I said, yeah, some of them big enough to swallow you whole. And I didn't know whether there's snakes in it or not, but I knew that there were a lot of monkeys. There was a lot of what do they call these? They're not wildcats. They're not leopards or tigers. They got sharp ears. Anyhow, they had those all over the place, and they will attack you without being provoked.
I can't think what you mean.
But once the gunfire started, of course, those things ran back inland.
Can't think.
And you know, back in from Bougainville, I think it's about 8 or 10 miles is this first high ridge, Civics Ridge we called it. It was called because this guy, the first guy killed back in on that ridge was called Civic. They had a perfect. I'm forgetting my terms now. Perfect fields of fire for anything that moved. So what we had to do, you smoke on those people. Really kept them smoked up. And we got on the beach. Our artillery was sitting right between the high water mark and the swamp. And that was I've always wanted to go back to Bougainville and go all over the island because I heard, well, the reason I was not to go to the sites of the where we had combat, but I wanted to go back in there and find that cannibal tribe. Did you hear about those?
No, I don't think so.
They had these cannibalistic tribes.
But the Coast Watchers knew about them.
They fought each other and they ate each other, but that was ritual. It wasn't because they were hungry. And I'd heard about them. I read about them after there was a Marine sergeant, a Native, and an Army lieutenant. Somehow I got found on Buka, which is the northern tip of the world. And they went back in there. They were on recon. They went back in there, but they had been put ashore at the wrong place. Well, they finally figured out where they were, so they went to figure they'd recon this place anyhow. And that's when they found these tribes. When they get in a battle with each other, it was for women. They were trying to steal women. For women, they could build up their tribes. And once they cut their heads off, they were headhunters too. They would always eat part of the heart. They'd cut the heart out and eat part of the heart of the good fighters. And I never did know what the hell they did with the rest of the body. Probably threw it into the sharks. Well, we came in to Bougainville that morning. It's the first time that we had come in this late in the day. And the Japanese came in and sunk 2 of our ships. Fortunately, they weren't transports, they were destroyers. Transports were loaded with troops.
They were the old 4-piper cans.
Huh?
The old 4-piper cans reduced to 2 stacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used those as attack
Well,
troop carriers.
all these bodies in the water, and you could see them. And all of a sudden, I never saw too many sharks in my life. There was something awful. I mean, you could see thrashing all over the place. And that really got to me. The guy gets killed.
Well, I was all the way through that area. We came into Guadalcanal was our first action. On my old DE, we were the first DE in the South Pacific.
A guy gets killed. This, you can get over this, you know. The guy gets eaten by a shark. That's something else.
Right. Well, you can imagine the Battle of Savo Island and everything. They feasted there, you know. All the night battles.
The Battle of Bougainville. That's when I told you I saw Pappy up there knocking these Japanese airplanes down. He got his 25th or 26th plane up there that day. And I forgot who his wingmate was, but it was a wild lieutenant who got 4 or 5 the first day he flying. He operated off of, temporarily off of Guadalcanal. And then he, next he operated out of Bougainville before he was shot down and captured.
Well, Colonel, I believe you said if you had this to do over again, you would have done it exactly the same way, right?
Pardon?
If you had this to do over again, you would do it exactly the same way and never any change in it. Did you say that?
Right.
You wouldn't do anything differently? You wouldn't do anything differently?
I'm sorry,
You wouldn't do anything differently?
do what?
If you had your choice to do your career over again.
My career?
Your Marine Corps career.
If I had to do it over, I'll do it exactly the same way.
No change at all?
No change. I'd come from the ranks. I'll tell you this, you get more respect from your troops when they know you're from the ranks. I didn't realize that until I began to understand it. But I had more respect for my officers who came from the ranks.
Mustangs, yeah. Mustang, yeah.
Well, as enlisted, you got more experience on what the enlisted are thinking and what they can do. An officer comes right out of school, comes out there, he doesn't know what the first thing.
He's unproven.
First place, he doesn't. He stands above the enlisted. You know. I had lieutenants who would do that, and I would tell them, I said, you either become part of your troops or you leave this battalion. I got rid of some officers. I'd call a regimental commander, and my regimental commanders trusted me, my judgment on these people. And they'd pull them out, and they'd send them to center division, and General Walt would keep them up there for a while. And they ended up doing all kind of jobs, assistant motor transport officers, all kinds of things. I doubt that any of them stayed in the Marine Corps if they got back. You know. Okay, that's just about it, I guess, isn't it?
I guess there is, and if there's anything else in the future that you think you'd like to add to this, why don't you sit down and write me a letter or something like that? Anything that you didn't think of on this?
I'm sorry.
Anything you didn't think of here, and you think of again later.
Okay. I'll have it typed out and sent to you.
Good.
Okay.
We surely appreciate that.
Now, it'll be a long time before you get this wrapped up.
Yeah, I'll be on the road till the end of the month.
I can send you copies of the Navy Crosses, the other Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit, and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I have down here, I want to Xerox you the POW listing, this list here. This?
Yeah.
You wanted a copy of that?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let me see that.
Well, I'll get you.
Maybe I got it.
I'll get you a copy of that.
I think I got a copy.
No, you haven't.
No, I don't have this.
No.
No. Well, yeah, send me a copy of that. I don't have that.
Then the Bronze Star citation.
The what?
Bronze Star citation. And the self-addressed envelopes, large, for sending these things back, and the others, anything else you have.
You know, I don't
that you
have
want me
a
to
Bronze
copy.
Star citation,
I know.
but I got them from Navy
But
Cross and the Navy.
That's what I say. I've got to look for it.
Well, you saw it in here.
Yeah. In the Federal Record Center address.
Pardon?
And I've got to get you the Federal Record Center address.
Yeah.
You can order your jacket.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll send you copies of those.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter-in-law is a work city clerk. She's the head of the administrative office down there, and she has this copy machine. Anytime I need copies of anything made, I just give it to her.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it makes it real fine.
Nepotism.
Huh?
Nepotism, they call
Yeah.
it. Thank you very much, Colonel. I
Well, nice
appreciate
meeting you, Long, and,
appreciate
good
your
luck to you.
patience on this, sir.
Good luck to you. So when I get anything else I think you may be interested in, I'll send it here.
Yeah.